Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto and Fem Kurama Were a Criminal Duo, Part 9. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
7 Naruto and Kyuubi were sitting on his couch, the girl seated in her boyfriend's lap, simply watching TV. Neither really found it necessary to be entirely clothed at the time, with Naruto simply in a pair of gray shorts and Kyuubi in a black t-shirt and panties. Naruto let out a sigh. "I'm so bored, Kyuubi-chan." Naruto groaned, "Can I tr? No, Naru-kun, you can't train." Kyuubi told him for what must have felt like the 10,000th time. "I was here to answer the door when Shizune told me to make sure you kept getting rest. You're going to be a good boy and sit here with me for the rest of the day." "Okay," Naruto conceded before adding on, "but can we? We can't have sex either, Naru-kun." That produced a loud whine from the blonde underneath Kyuubi, who smirked at his displeasure. "You're not being good enough for me to reward you again. Just calm down, and relax. Can you relax for me? You're never going to heal up from your rib injury if you don't." She gave him a peck on the cheek and got off of his lap. "Now what do you want for lunch?" "You," he replied under his breath. "I heard that you pervert." Kyuubi called back to him as she started going through his cabinets. "Be good." Naruto rolled his eyes as he watched her move around his kitchen. "I'm always good, Q-chan." Kyuubi looked over at him with a deadpan face from the counter in the kitchen and moved the hair around her neck out of the way to show a bite mark. "That shouldn't count. You liked it when I did it." A giggle came from the girl in the kitchen. "Well, maybe a little bit. Now what do you want to eat?" Naruto thought for a moment. "What do I even have?" Kyuubi revealed the contents of his cabinet to him in a deadpan voice. "Ramen, ramen, ramen. Let's just start off by saying a ton of ramen. Then you have packets of tuna, crackers, an empty box of cereal, 3 cans of tomato soup, a bag of potato chips, a bag of tortilla chips with no salsa or dip of any kind, a bag of bread with the front and back slices in it only, peanut butter. Kami Naru-kun, you really need a woman to help you go shopping." Naruto shrugged and stood up to walk into the kitchen. "I live by myself. Do I look like I can cook elaborate stuff? Basic easy to make food is all I can do, and it's kept me alive so far." "Yes, honey, but you have a girlfriend now." Kyuubi purred as she pulled Naruto against her for a hug. "And I plan on staying over here more and more once my parents are a-okay with it, so don't worry about it. I'll make sure you actually get some real food in you from time to time." Naruto smiled while he held her in his arms. "You're going to want to put some pants on, Q-chan." "Why?" she asked him as she felt like falling asleep in his touch. Naruto grinned and grabbed a hold of her backside. "Because the more clothes you have on, the less incentive I have to take them all off." He laughed when he felt her smack his chest. "Well, you asked me why." Kyuubi broke the hug and headed back towards his bedroom. "Fine, I'm going to shower and get dressed." Her head poked out of his room. "Do not follow me into the bathroom," she said firmly to her blonde boyfriend. Naruto sighed and grabbed his phone off of the coffee table and decided to give a call back to one of his friends that had left a message. "Hey Shikamaru. How troublesome, Naruto, you idiot. Why didn't you tell us if you were okay or not any sooner? No one's heard anything from you except for Sasuke, and he's just now telling us he heard you were in One Piece yesterday." "Sorry, I couldn't get to my phone until yesterday. How are all of you doing after what happened?" Naruto asked as he turned his TV down so he could hear. A sigh came from the other line. "Long story short, Ino's dad was pissed off until Sakura told everyone just what you had to fight. We're all fine. We got out without any problems. We brought your motorcycle back too." Naruto grinned. "Yeah, I noticed. It sucks you guys got dragged into all of that, but it's good to know that you're all okay. As you've probably noticed by now, it being 3 in the afternoon, I decided to skip today. I'm surprised you can even speak right now without a lot of effort. You were pulverized when we saw you. You really freaked Sakura out, Naruto. She's upset about it." Naruto frowned. "Well, if you see her before I do, just tell her I'm fine. I should be there myself tomorrow, so I'll take care of it myself. I'm sure seeing everything that happened that day left her pretty shell-shocked. What about you, Choji, and Ino?" "Me and Choji kind of figured that you being a mercenary meant that you would be doing stuff like that, so we're not too shaken up. We got over it pretty fast with the fight we had to do and everything. Ino did too. It's really just Sakura that's feeling the strain from it all. Alright. Naruto said as he stood up off of his couch, I'll see you all soon. Take care. Yeah, whatever. Get better, you idiot. Naruto ended the call there and headed back to his room to change so that he could take Kyuubi home. He was seriously hoping that her parents weren't too angry that he didn't bring her home last night, and he sincerely hoped that they didn't notice that she and him had partaken in a certain activity as well. He probably still smelled of her and Isshin would pick that up in a heartbeat. I need to take a very good shower or risk being killed. XXX 3 hours later. Naruto pulled his bike over in front of Kyuubi's house with the girl holding her arms around his waist to stay on. You're not going to come in, Naru-kun? Naruto, with his goggles on, chuckled and looked at her over his shoulder. I would, but if your parents are upset then I'd rather not die right after spending my night with an angel. He gave her a kiss on the lips and let her off of the motorcycle. Kyuubi backed away with a smile on her face. Just take it easy, okay? You're still hurt. Call me tonight? Naruto gave her a salute. You've got it, Q-chan. Love you, okay? Love you too, Naru-kun. She replied, now you'd better get going. Dad can hear your bike and he's probably barreling towards the door as we speak. She turned her head around. Speak of the devil. Isshin had opened the front door with a murderous look on his face. You. Isshin yelled at Naruto, pointing a shaky finger at him. I've got a bone to pick with you. Setsuna came out of the house with a displeased look on her face directed at her husband. Oh, calm down and hush up. She turned to Naruto and gave him a wave. Hello, Naruto-kun. It's good to see you. Naruto waved right back. Dad, calm down. Kyuubi said as she walked through the gate towards the door. Naru-kun and me just lost track of time last night and I decided to stay over. It was no big deal. A blatant lie that she was hoping his anger at Naruto would help him ignore before he tried to pry. You know, I've done it before when he was sick or hurt. Isshin stewed at Naruto from a distance as he watched the boy wave once more before pulling off from in front of their house. Kyuubi shook her head at her father's antics before heading inside, where she found herself pulled aside by her mother. Mom? What's the matter? So how was he? Setsuna said with a knowing grin. Kyuubi blushed and looked away. He was really good. But how did you know? Dad doesn't, does he? Setsuna let out a laugh. No, he doesn't know. It's a mother's responsibility to feel the changes in her daughter, and you feel especially calm, content, and evenly balanced today. More so than you did yesterday. She pulled her daughter into a tight hug. Ooh, it's only going to be a matter of time before my baby is having babies. I wonder if they'll be blondes or redheads. Oh, I hope they get Naruto-kun's whisker marks. They're so cute. Kyuubi was crying anime tears while caught in her mother's inhumanly strong grasp as she babbled on about grandchildren and her new son-in-law. XXX the next day, South Konoha High School. Naruto sat at his desk with a twitch in his eye as Sakura continuously checked his person over for injuries of the grievous variety. His eyes kept darting over to his girlfriend for any help at all. Come on, woman. Get pissed. Get jealous. At least hear my mental cries to get the girl off of me. Come on. Naruto finally had enough. Sakura, that's enough. I'm fine. They patched me up good and all that's left is for my ribs to heal up. I'm doing great. Sakura pulled away with a concerned look still on her face. But you were so messed up. I thought you were going to die before we even got you back to town. That guy in the mask beat you so badly. Naruto rubbed his ribs. Yeah, I remember. Thanks for bringing up my most crushing defeat. I couldn't even make that bastard flinch, and I know he scared the hell out of you. Sorry, Sakura. Sakura gave him a light tap and left her hand on his head. Sakura? Sakura had a light smile on her face. What are you apologizing for, Baka? Nothing that happened was your fault, and how can you apologize for getting beaten up? I just had a little scare, that's all. You were the one looking like he was knocking on death's door. Well, isn't that nice? Kiba said from his own seat with a toothy grin. Naruto gets the shit kicked out of him and we all welcome him back with open arms and a pat on the back. Naruto glared at Kiba. Fuck you, Kiba. I'll never lose again. Besides, I can still kick your ass, even with busted up ribs. Kiba stood up at his desk. Anytime you wanted, you ass, I'm right here. Naruto placed his hand on the desk. Sit down before I have to get up and leave permanent boot prints on your ass. It's not the time or the place for it, Kiba, but since when have I ever cared about that? Naru-kun. Kyuubi said straightforwardly while showing him a fingertip with blue fire on it. I have absolutely no problem setting you on fire if it gets you to stop doing stupid things while you're hurt. You're lucky I let you ride the motorcycle. Naruto visibly deflated. Alright Kyuubi-chan, he said before going somewhat back to normal. Hey, you know that you like the motorcycle just as much as I do. You'd be just as pissed off as me if I couldn't ride it. It's at HQ right now though. I have Tenten working on it, and I'm bleeding my account dry, but it should be worth it. You have a motorcycle? Kiba asked in disbelief, getting nods out of all of his friends. How can you even ride it? Because I'm awesome, Naruto said. That and IDs for mercenaries are as good as a do whatever you like license. I can drive anything legally. He looked at Shikamaru, Ino, Choji, and Sakura. Thanks for making sure it got back by the way. I'm going to drive that thing to death as soon as I get a friend of mine to finish fixing it up the way I want it to be. Ino looked around the room. Where's Sasuke-kun? He was here yesterday. Naruto smirked. The deputy is finally taking after my own shining example. He's finally choosing to skip school for once. I'm so proud of him, he said, wiping a fake tear from his eye. Hearing that got Kyuubi to give him a look of scrutiny. Speaking of which, you are the real Naruto, aren't you? Naruto began to sweat under her stern gaze. You'd seriously better be. Exams are coming up in 1 week and your ass needs to be here for the review. Before Naruto could open his mouth, Kiba answered in his place. It's one of those clones of his. They're here so much I can smell the difference by now. Kiba grinned at the sight of Kyuubi's fireball spiking. Naruto groaned to his girlfriend. Come on Kyuubi-chan, school is so boring, and my cage bunshin give the memories of what they do right back to me when they dispel. That way I can do useful stuff during the day and still make sure I don't leave you alone in the hell that is our public school system. Kyuubi narrowed her eyes and glared at him. I'm going to make you pay after school. Naruto blinked and looked at all of his friends before looking back at Kyuubi. Make me pay, in a good way. Or, make me pay, in a bad way. What do you think? She said in a tone that was basically calling him an idiot. Naruto stroked his chin. Well, I know that you mean in the bad way, but on the other hand I wish that you meant it in the good way. Maybe if I believe with all of my heart that it's going to be in the good way, then you'll punish me in the good way. Naruto finished solemnly. That's what I believe at least. Kiba patted Naruto on the shoulder. It's good to have such a positive mindset against such insurmountable odds as a man. It's inspirational. Shikamaru and Choji nodded in the background. Naruto looked at him hopefully. So there's a chance that's going to work? Kiba backed away. Oh hell no, I live with my mom and sister and that kind of logic winds up getting your ass kicked. Good luck with that though. He then pointed behind Naruto where Kyuubi was radiating killing intent. The cage bunshin slumped down in his chair. Q-chan, if you hit me and dispel me then boss won't learn anything today and he'll definitely fail the exams next week. Can't you just wait until after school and then go hunt him down and kick his ass? He could see the wheels turning in her head over whether or not to hit him, so he decided to give it one little push. I can guarantee that he'll last longer than one hit if you do. Fine. The red-haired vixen finally said, you have until right when that bell rings and then I want to use you to send Naruto-kun a message. Do not ditch me at school. The clone gulped and turned forward in his seat, unable to make eye contact with Kyuubi for the rest of the day. XXX with Naruto. What did you need my help with, deputy? Naruto said as he walked with Sasuke down the street with the black-haired teen. We all know that my ass is going to be kicked thoroughly once Kyuubi-chan realizes that I'm not really there, so this better be well worth the hellacious beatdown that I'm going to undoubtedly be taking once it's all said and done. Sasuke simply kept his eyes forward on the road with his hands in his pockets. Just come on already. I guarantee that you're going to like what I've got for you, so you can thank me later. For now just shut up and keep walking. Naruto glared at him from the corner of his eye. I need to get you a girlfriend so you can see exactly what I'm talking about when I say I'm going to get my ass kicked. The strongest man in the world is still a little boy in the face of his significant other. Sasuke scoffed. Where did you get that, a fortune cookie? Naruto shook his head. Nope, your Uncle Obito. Now I'm not going to ask you again. Where are we going, or should I just start heading home now and awaiting my inevitable fate? Sasuke pointed across the street where Naruto's eyes stopped and widened. No. No. No fuck no, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Please tell me you're kidding me. Naruto basically pleaded to his buddy. Sasuke smirked. Sorry Dobi, but this is where we're going today. Today you will be spending the day among Konoha's finest. With that, Sasuke walked across the street towards the police precinct clearly in sight. Sasuke. Naruto shouted, still standing in place. That's like me walking into a hornet's nest. You know this, right? Sasuke stopped in the middle of the street and turned around. Have you done anything illegal that you're a prime suspect for lately? Naruto shook his head. Do you have any outstanding warrants that you keep dodging when other cops try to serve you? This time Naruto took a second to think before shaking his head. Do you have a probation officer that you've been sending Kage Bunshin to go see instead of going yourself? Naruto gave Sasuke a deadpan look. I haven't had a probation officer in 3 years and that was Itachi. Go fuck yourself. Sasuke turned back towards the station and kept walking. Then you'll be fine. You're with me. My dad isn't even stationed at this one, so it's alright. Naruto followed him with a lack of spirit over to the police precinct. Yeah, but you're also forgetting about the 50 other members of your family that want to kill me or lock me in a deep, dark hole. Like I said, you're with me. Sasuke said as he led him through the front door. The two boys caught the eye of every officer in the station as Sasuke led Naruto past each desk and each office. Naruto grinned nervously at each person looking at him and each Uchiha that had turned their Sharingan on just to intimidate him, right until Sasuke turned his on and glared right back. Naruto patted Sasuke on the shoulder to get him to stop. It's alright, deputy. I'm used to it by now. Don't go black sheep over this whole thing the way Obito ni did. Just remember, they can glare all they want. They won't lay a hand on me. Naruto turned to them all with a wide grin. They know I'm untouchable as long as they don't have Jack on me. Sasuke nodded and the two continued on towards lockup. Sasuke looked back at Naruto. Was that true? What you said about Obito Ojisan? Was he really outcast from the clan and the police force because of you? Naruto shrugged and rubbed the back of his neck. Well, it wasn't just me, but I was the last straw, he said. It happened before we were 11. When I was getting locked up like every other week for one thing or another. They told him to remove himself from my life and he basically told your old man to go fuck himself, and that was that. Wow, I don't know why I didn't ask you right when it happened. Sasuke said as he scanned his ID card and opened a security door. Naruto followed his friend through and answered his question, because you and I were arbitrarily at each other's throats back then. All you ever used to say to me was, Dobi. Or some unintelligible combination of the two when we weren't punching each other in the face. You're the reason half the school's female population hates me, which makes the idiot boys of school hate me because they want to get on the chicks' good sides. Sasuke replied, I didn't need any of those harpies to fight my battles for me. What could those weak gaggles of hanger-ons possibly do to you anyway? Naruto started listing off things on his fingers as they kept heading deeper into the station. Lie about shit that happened to get me suspended. Get their punk-ass boy toys to try and fight me. I didn't mind that too much, they were all weak. Screech at me whenever we had those face-offs in school, rendering me deaf for the moment. Do I need to keep going? Nope. Sasuke said with a sweat drop. Point well proven. Sasuke's face returned to normal as they reached a certain locker that Sasuke pulled out the key for. Here we go. The reason for the season, so to speak. Naruto watched Sasuke open the locker and pull out a small black backpack that he placed on his back before walking away to exit the station. Naruto followed Sasuke out with a look of disbelief on his face. That was it? That was why you dragged me into this lion's den? For a goddamn sack of mystery that you could have gotten all by yourself? Once they reached the street, Sasuke started walking, moving slow enough for Naruto to catch up to him and give him an expectant look. This was some of the contraband that was picked up on a raid on a hideout just outside of town. It turns out that what was in here wasn't really illegal, so they put it up for auction among other officers and I ended up winning it. Naruto grinned. Wow, deputy. How much of the winnings you got from our little trip to Tanzaku Gai did that cost you? Sasuke shook his head. Not that much really. The only ones that were in the auction against me were other Uchiha that didn't unlock their Sharingan yet. The others just wait to fight criminals that know jutsu so they can glean techniques from them. I really think that me and Itachi are the only ones that really train. Naruto nodded with a satisfied look, and that's why you two are the only ones that I haven't completely made look the complete ass after beating the shit out of you. The rest of your family are pushovers compared to you. your dad, and your brother. Obito ni kicks my ass too, and he only has one eye. He looked at the black backpack, so what's in there? Sasuke smirked. A mystery batch of jutsu of all kinds. And who better to share the wealth with than my best friend? Naruto looked at Sasuke completely seriously. If it wouldn't make me a completely flaming homosexual, wouldn't get me tortured and then murdered by your fan club, and if I didn't have the hottest girlfriend in school who's just given me full rights to tap, that I would probably be inclined to kiss you right now. He narrowed his eyes. All three of those things are combined factors leading to the aforementioned ultimatum, you understand? That was not me saying anything gay. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay. He turned down the street. You'd tell me if you were gay, wouldn't you, Teme? I mean, it wouldn't change anything. I would just need to know if my best friend was gay. Sasuke palmed his face as he could just feel the people turning their heads towards their conversation. For the love of Kami Dobi, shut up. Naruto chuckled and placed his hands behind his head. Alright, you've led me around the city enough. I've got some stops to make, and maybe we can get to work on those scrolls while we're at one of the places. Naruto then paused and grabbed Sasuke before running to the rooftops. Get off the street now. Sasuke jerked his way out of Naruto's grip and adjusted his shirt. Why did you just drag me up the side of a building and look like someone's going to firebomb your house? Naruto looked over at Sasuke. Because Kyuubi-chan found out I wasn't at school and she did something horrible to my Kage Bunshin once school let out. There is no way I'm getting busted after what she did, and now that I know that you're toting around a bag of jutsu. Now keep a low profile and keep your eyes on the streets. XXX with Kyuubi and the others, Shikamaru, Kiba, and Choji kept their distance from Kyuubi and the other girls who seemingly had no problems with staying by the redhead. Kiba unconsciously kept his legs crossed as he and the other boys kept a fair distance behind her. Kyuubi? Don't you think that was a little overboard? Even for a clone? Clones feel pain too. Choji nodded, not even able to find it in him to eat out of horror for what he had just seen happen to Naruto's poor clone. Shikamaru then spoke. There was no reasonable excuse for what you did to him. Kyuubi looked over her shoulder uncaringly. Well, I can do what I want to my Naru-kun since he now completely belongs to me. Especially that part of his anatomy. I would never do that to him for real because I personally love that part of him, but I hope he felt that when his clone dispelled. How is he going to ditch me and not even say anything? Ino nodded. He needs to know that he can't do what he likes anymore. He has a girlfriend now, and that means that all of his decisions have to be run by you first. Don't worry, you can teach him that once we find him. She pointed her thumb back. That's what Kiba is for. Kiba paled. Akamaru is more suited for finding people than me. Let me run home and get him for you. Kiba really didn't want to be the one forced to hunt down one of his friends for a fate on par with death, but he wasn't going to blatantly say so in front of women that could do terrible things to him, especially after what he had seen Kyuubi do to Naruto's Kage Bunshin. If he could run on home and hide there under the guise of getting his dog, then his mother and hopefully his sister could protect him from any scary female retaliation for his cowardice. Kyuubi didn't even turn around to respond. No, you're staying here. You'd just run home and hide from us since only Sasuke and Naruto really know where you live, and that's who we're looking for. She turned around and locked her red eyes onto him. You know you can find Naruto, dogboy, so put that sniffer to good use since your nose is way stronger than mine. Kiba was about to open his mouth to ask her something, but she beat him to it. I can feel the emotions of the people around me when their intentions are poorly masked. You were reeking of cowardice and deceit. Your line never had a chance. Beaten on all fronts, Kiba looked at Shikamaru and Choji before slinking his way to the front of the group. Fine. He took a few sniffs of the air and made a gesture with his arm. Come on and follow me, he said in a defeated voice as he led them along. XXX with Naruto and Sasuke, Hyuga Mansion. Why are we here again? Sasuke asked as he sat at the desk in Hinata's spacious room while Naruto himself sat on a couch nearby with Hanabi in his lap. How is this place low profile in any way? Naruto was tickling the little girl on his lap who was laughing and kicking her legs raucously. We're here because I haven't seen Princess and little Tsukime-chan in forever, and how could we be any more protected from my seemingly angry girlfriend than in a place with guards that can see through walls? Sasuke shrugged and dumped his bag out on the desk. Good point. Hinata entered her room holding a tray with 4 cups and a pot of tea. It's good to see you again, Naruto-kun. And you as well, Sasuke-kun. Hanabi-chan missed you a lot, you know. she said to the blonde. Oh Oni-sama. Hanabi choked out through Naruto tickling her. He didn't need to know that. She got out before breaking into more laughter. Ah. Naruto kept up his onslaught on the younger girl. I missed you too, little Tsukime-chan. He looked up at Hinata. Is Neji still an ass clown? Sasuke snorted in laughter as he started separating the scrolls on Hinata's desk. Hinata frowned at Naruto and sat down on her bed. Yes, I'm afraid, although I would have used far less vulgar language in my description of Neji-Nisan. He is what he is, you're just too sweet to say it out loud, Naruto said simply as he pulled Hanabi up and into a hug. He's probably been spouting all kinds of bullshit to my sweet little Hanabi-chan, trying to get her to have the mindset of a horse's ass just like him. Hinata smiled wryly, more or less, but watch your language around Hanabi-chan. You shouldn't be influencing her that much. We're still nobles, Naruto-kun. A public slip-up wouldn't be befitting of our status, you know. Naruto scoffed and let Hanabi go, ignoring the fact that she was still happily holding on to him. Fuck that shit, princess. Due to illegal and mostly unscrupulous means I'm totally loaded now. And part of being loaded means that I can do whatever the hell I feel like doing. And if anyone has a problem with that, what could they possibly do to me? Hinata poured herself a cup of tea. They could kill you, or hire people to kill you. Naruto grinned and laughed at that. The thing about that is, that if I'm getting put down for good, it damn sure isn't going to be by any stuffed shirts, princess. And if they hire someone to take me out, I have just one thing to say. I know everyone that they could possibly hire to do the job locally, and they like me better than them. Hinata giggled and looked over to Sasuke. And you, Sasuke-kun? What are you doing right now? Sasuke looked over his shoulder at the clan princess. I bought a ton of scrolls in an auction and me and the idiot are going to ditch school for the rest of the week and learn them all. Or as many as we can in a week. We've got like 12 and even a few slips of paper to test chakra affinities. Naruto put Hanabi down on the sofa and walked over to Sasuke and took a slip of paper from his hand. What is this thing? A pregnancy test. Sasuke palmed his face and shook his head. You are the single worst influence on any child ever. I really hope Hanabi doesn't take the stuff you say seriously. Channel chakra into the paper dobi. Naruto did as instructed and watched it split in half. So what does that mean? Is it bad? Sasuke shook his head. No, that means that your element is wind. He then smirked. Mine is fire. The element yours is weak against. That's fun. Sasuke looked over at Hinata. Do you want to try too? We don't have any problems with you learning this too since we crashed your house like this. Hinata shook her head with a pleasant smile. No thank you, Sasuke-kun. Hanabi-chan and I are only allowed by tradition to know and be taught Hyuga fighting techniques. While on the other hand, Naruto said while looking at the elemental kanji on the outside of the scrolls on the desk, it's Sasuke's family tradition to steal other people's moves with a mere flicker of the retina. Naruto then took an elbow to the ribs. Hitting me doesn't make it any less true. Now let's see what we've got here. Naruto opened one of the scrolls. Futen. Kei's Kongu no Jutsu Wind Release, Wind Bolt Jutsu. This wind jutsu condenses the wind down into a spear-like bolt of swirling wind. One could almost grab onto this wind since it is so condensed down, though anyone doing so would likely find their hand removed from their body. Effect. After doing hand seals, the bolt of wind flies towards its intended target in a jagged pattern, almost like lightning. If it hits, the bolt will leave a deep puncture wound or may even impale the opponent. Rank. C. Hello. Naruto said with a smile. Looks like we have a winner right off the bat. I needed more ranged techniques anyway. Naruto looked back over at Sasuke. So how are we doing this? You said I could use these too. Sasuke read through a few scrolls of his own with a smile on his face. You can take a few that you like, but since they're mine I have final say in what you leave with. Then you learn them and bring them back and see what else you might want. He looked back at Naruto. Remember, I paid good money for these, so don't spill crap on them or rip them. Naruto rolled his eyes. Yes, fine mom. I won't mess up the scrolls. I'm better than that. But how are you going to learn all of those jutsu so fast? Sasuke smirked at him. Haven't you heard Dobi? I'm a genius? Oni-chan. Hanabi asked. She had taken to calling Naruto that not too long ago and he simply thought that it was too cute to tell her not to. Why does Uchiha-san call you Dobi all of the time? Hinata looked at Naruto curiously as well. Yes, I've wanted to know that too for a while. Naruto sighed, because the first time I was ever sent to jail for doing anything, back when I was 8, I would hazard a guess, this ass comes walking up to my cell. He stares at me and I stare back, and this keeps going for like 5 minutes, and the second I open my mouth to ask him what the fuck he wants, he says 2 words that start our messed up relationship. Dobi. Sasuke says while continuing to read. Naruto pointed over at Sasuke. Yeah, that was it verbatim. And he kept calling me that even after I kept proving that I wasn't dead last in anything, so eventually I started ignoring it and coming up with names of my own, which is why I have nicknames for a lot of the people in my life, so blame him for it. Hanabi pulled on Naruto's arm. Oni-chan. Fight me. Naruto looked down and blinked owlishly at the 10-year-old girl. Naruto looked over at Hinata. Why does she want to fight me? She does know I kill people basically as my job description, doesn't she? Hinata nodded. So why in the sweet hell would she want to fight me? Because she sees you train with me sometimes and she always wanted to, and Hinata turned her Byakugan on, because she can see that you're hurt right now and thinks this is a good chance to beat you. Naruto shrugged. That doesn't bother me that much. I've heard far worse reasons for people wanting to fight me. He kneeled down by Hanabi. Do you think you can beat me, little Tsukime-chan? Hanabi nodded fervently, getting a grin out of Naruto. I always wanted a little sibling to beat up. At that point Hinata's cell phone went off, prompting the girl to pick it up. Hello? Oh, hi Kyuubi-chan. On hearing her name, Naruto paled and mouthed the words, I'm not here, to Hinata. Yes, he's right here with me as we speak. Hinata said with a mischievous smile on her face. Yes, I can keep him from running away. The hell you can. Naruto said before running to the desk and grabbing 2 more scrolls from Sasuke before looking to the door to bolt. However, he fell to the floor with his legs unable to move. Naruto looked back from on the ground and saw Hanabi with her Byakugan on and her fingers outstretched, letting him know just what had happened. Hanabi, why would you do that? Hanabi turned her Byakugan off, because Hinata Wanisama was about to do it. I was just closer. Sasuke didn't even bother looking to see if Naruto was okay. Just man up and take your punishment. How bad could it possibly be? Says the guy who doesn't even have a girlfriend, let alone a girlfriend with claws and who can make fire. Naruto said as he tried to pull himself out of the room before Hinata walked over and disabled his arms. Princess. Hinata shook her head as she walked towards her bedroom door. I will let you use your arms and legs when I come back, Naruto-kun. You're not running away from Kyuubi-chan for whatever it is that you did. With that she left the room. Naruto started crying anime tears before looking at Hanabi. Tsukime-chan, if you let me out of here right now, I promise I'll sneak you out on Saturday and we can do whatever you want all day. I'll buy you whatever you want. Hanabi really thought about it for a moment before shaking her head. Sorry Naruto Onichan. You did something bad and now you have to pay for it. Naruto bounced his head off of the floor. Oh come on. You women are stricter about this than the police force. XXX 2 hours later, after getting caught and scolded and then threatened with the prolonged withholding of sex, Naruto voluntarily, of course, took Kyuubi home. However, not one for letting such slights go against him. He also let the girls that were with Kyuubi, Ino and Sakura, know that their Sasuke-kun was inside as he spoke. 2 blocks away he heard the satisfying yell of Sasuke rushing out of the Hyuga mansion front gate telling them to leave him alone. He dropped off Kyuubi, gave her a kiss goodbye and decided to head to HQ to visit some of his favorite people while he had the time. Upon reaching the upstairs offices of the more higher-up mercenaries, he was greeted by immediately being rapped hard on the top of the head. Ow, damn it. Rin looked down at him with a tick mark on her head. Me, Shizune, and Tsunade-sama all told you to stay home and rest. I let you coming in yesterday evening to drop off your bike to Tent and Slide, but you're really trying my patience, Naruto-kun. Naruto rubbed the spot on his head where Rin's fist had made contact. Geez Rin-ni-chan, you hit like a girl. Naruto covered his face when he saw her cock her hand back for another strike. Okay. I'm just here to spend some time with you guys. I'm not allowed any missions yet anyway because of Tsunade-ba's orders to keep me on injured reserve. Rin lowered her hands and poked him in the ribs, pleased that she didn't get a sharp intake of breath from him for her trouble before she decided to run a quick diagnostic jutsu on him. Well, it looks like you're almost back to 100%. A week on the shelf has to be some kind of record for you lately. I don't know how to respond to that, so I'm just going to nod my head and smile politely. Naruto said, "Come walk with me, Nichan. Are you supposed to be doing anything right now?" Rin shook her head. "Kakashi-kun is on a mission, and Obito is just sleeping in our office. I'm just killing time before I go home. So what's up, Naruto-kun?" Naruto and Rin walked through the halls before getting on a large cargo elevator. "I need to check something with my bike, and then I was going to tease some people before going home." They made it down to the underground garage level of the base, where he quickly found Tenten in a gray jumpsuit that was half off with the sleeves wrapped around her waist, sitting by his bike. "So what's the word, Tenten?" Tenten looked up from observing the machine and gave him a dry look. "This thing is actually in terrible shape." "What, did you throw this thing off of a cliff?" Seeing Naruto's unchanging expression, she shook her head pitifully. "I don't even want you to answer that. But how have you even been getting this thing down the street without blowing yourself to hell?" Naruto walked over to look at it with her. "What's wrong with it?" "What isn't wrong with it?" she replied. "Whatever you did completely screwed over your transmission, see?" she said, pointing to a particular spot dripping stuff. "It's leaking transmission fluid as we speak. It's probably why you never reached top speed on this thing. Your carburetor is fucked. You need to replace your camshaft gear. I either need to rebuild or completely replace several parts of your entire engine to make this piece of crap run halfway down the street before we even get started on your stupid requests that are strangely appealing to me." Naruto looked back at Rin, who was giving him a mothering look, telling him he was irresponsible. "Fine. How much do you need to get this started, and how long do you think this will take?" "Between the parts and the pay for my actual services, this is going to run you 265,000 ryo, just to get us started," Tenten said, rubbing her cheek that had a black smudge on it. "Damn it," Naruto said. "I'm so lucky I'm loaded right now and can afford to spend it on stupid stuff right now." He sighed and turned to leave. "All right, I'll have the money for you tomorrow, so you can go ahead and order the parts. The sooner this gets done, the better." Tenten, hearing Naruto shrug off paying so much money, so easily put on puppy dog eyes. "Naruto, you didn't get me anything for my birthday 2 months ago in March. Can I go ahead and order a little something extra for myself?" Naruto was about to climb back on the elevator when he got a good look at Tenten's face and froze. "Fine. Get what you want, but be reasonable, damn it, I'll pay for it," he said defeatedly as he climbed on the elevator with an amused Rin. "Thank you, Naruto," Tenten chirped happily before turning back to his motorcycle. Naruto gave a loud indignant grunt back in response just as the elevator started taking off upstairs. Rin kept her laughter to herself as she looked at her pouting little brother. "You know, Naruto-kun, you didn't come into all of this money until after my birthday too, so I was wondering." "Fine." Naruto grumbled out loudly. "Get something nice, Nichan, it's the least I can do." Naruto got a kiss on the cheek before Rin got off on the floor she intended to get off on, laughing to herself as she heard Naruto keep griping to himself. "Can't never let me have nothing. Always got to try and take my money right when I get it. I'm trying to move out here." Naruto went back down a few floors to see if he could find anyone willing to spar with him. Upon reaching that floor, he felt like crawling into his skin as the smirking face of Tsunade appeared once the doors opened. "Hello, brat. You weren't thinking of going in there and picking a fight with anyone, were you?" Naruto averted his eyes as the older blonde climbed onto the elevator. "No, Tsunade ba, not at all. Where'd you get that idea? I'm not cleared yet, remember?" Tsunade ruffled Naruto's hair. "Good boy, you're learning. Bottom floor, please. We have somewhere to go while you're here." Naruto was curious about what she intended but hit the button all the same. Once they arrived at the very bottom floor where Jiraiya's office, living quarters sat, he heard Tsunade make a quip about the large ornate doors there. "For a pervert that lives down here like a slob and never lets anyone in, he sure likes to make a grand showing of nothing, doesn't he?" Naruto smirked. "I like to think he lives like a senin. An arrow senin." Tsunade broke into laughter as she knocked audibly on the large doors. After a moment, the tall white-haired man opened the door with a massive grin on his face. "Tsunadeheim, I see you finally decided to take me up on my offer for a late-night rendezvous." "Gross," Naruto said from his spot next to Tsunade. "If that's what she's here for, then let me leave. I need to go bash my head against something to get the images I'm getting out of it." Tsunade held back on punching the man in the face just yet. "First of all, no, never in a million years, you pervert. No, second of all, I brought the brat you needed to talk to. Third of all, since I brought him, I'm staying for whatever you have to tell him." Naruto looked between the two senior mercenaries in a confused manner. He hadn't really talked to Jiraiya since the man basically let him know that he knew about Sasuke's interest in Orochimaru. Jiraiya led them inside to the living room on the chairs that Naruto figured had to be the designated conversation area. "Alright Gaki, on that last mission, what would you rate your performance?" At mention of that, Naruto scowled. "What do you think? A fucking F for epic fail. There's nothing else I could possibly call it. I got my ass handed to me in 30 seconds by some guy that could take my best shot and walk right through it. We lost the water and failed the mission, and my friends almost got killed." Jiraiya nodded. "And what of those reasons are you most concerned with?" "Everybody almost getting killed," Naruto exclaimed. "Who cares about the water? It was water. I still don't see what the big deal about it was. About the me losing, I had just beaten Fu, and even though I still wouldn't have beaten that Kakuzu guy, Fu was tough and I beat her." He clenched his fists. That psycho would have killed Sakura though if she hadn't been smart enough to just give up the water. She never should have been there. Tsunade spoke up. "Why was she there?" Naruto eased back in the chair and ran his hand over his face. It was a last-minute add-on to the mission. Haku-chan was pretty much forced to accept. It was transporting Sakura and a few others to Taki and back for a day trip or something. It's in her and Rock Lee's reports, I'm sure. Tsunade looked over at Jiraiya and the man nodded. "I need to have a talk with Yamanaka about breaking the initial terms of the contract without previous indication and taking advantage of our resources. Those kids were too low on the totem pole to turn down his request." "So now what?" Naruto stated. "Why am I here? Why did you want to hear that from me? Are you busting me back down to the glorified babysitting or are you just straight kicking me out?" Tsunade frowned. "Naruto honey, why would Jiraiya kick you out for a mission gone wrong? That was no one's fault at all. You just weren't prepared for someone like Kakuzu, he was an anomaly." Jiraiya picked up where she left off. "If we knew he was somehow interested in Yamanaka's cargo we would have sent a more experienced team, charged higher, and you never would have been involved with it." Tsunade sat down next to him and rubbed his shoulder. "Honestly, while I may have yelled at you before about being stupid and fighting him, I'm glad you're alright brat. We all are." Naruto looked up at Tsunade and saw a faint smile on her red lips. "Thank you Ba-chan. I appreciate all the concern," he said, putting on a smile of his own. He turned back to Jiraiya. "So now what? If you wanted my account of the mission you could have just read my report. What's this about?" Jiraiya looked off on the other side of the room for a moment before giving Naruto a big, toothy grin. "So how would you like to be trained by yours truly?" Naruto's brain stopped working for a second once he heard that. He dug into his ear and patted the side of his own head. "Excuse me, could you repeat that? I think I had something crazy in my ear?" "No joke kid," Jiraiya asserted. "Quite frankly, for only being on the job for around 9 months you're better than half of the people older than you. There's only one other person I could say that had that kind of potential and he was my last apprentice." "What happened to him?" Naruto asked curiously. This was the first he was hearing of this. Jiraiya flinched and looked away. "He passed on a long time ago. He got his steam back however, but before he checked out he was the single best mercenary this company ever produced, bar none. His fame actually reached beyond the shadows of merc work." Wow. Naruto just wanted to be good enough at what he did to live comfortably with Kyuubi one day if everything went smoothly. He never thought about being so strong that he got famous for it. Then again, someone already tried killing him, so how bad could it be? "Yep," Jiraiya said. "So are you interested?" Naruto grinned and stuck out his hand. "Where do I sign up Ero Sennin?" He reveled at the look on Jiraiya's face of smelling spoiled milk and Tsunade's pleased laughter. Jiraiya could already tell this was going to work his nerves and they hadn't even started yet. XXX the next day, South Konoha High School. Naruto had to make sure he actually attended himself now, lest even more of his poor, innocent Kage Bunshin be subjected to the horrific punishment inflicted upon them by Kyuubi the previous day. She had also taken to proving whether or not he was a clone by biting him on the neck when she saw him in the morning, and not gently and lovingly like she did in the bedroom either. She drew blood. "So you're going to be working with the guy that runs your PMC?" Kyuubi asked Naruto as they waited for class to begin. "Yeah," Naruto said, "it's an awesome chance for me to get stronger. He's got to be the strongest man in the entire place to run the company. I'm going to be kicking so much ass in no time at all." "You can't kick my ass, Naru-kun." Kyuubi replied lowly as she moved herself into his lap and wiggled around in place as she spoke. Naruto deeply inhaled her scent and felt his pants start to bulge. Damn woman, they were at school. Ah, she didn't care, and honestly neither did he. "Yes, I can, Q-chan. You know I can. But you know there are other things that I want to do to your ass, and kicking it isn't what I had in mind." Kyuubi kissed Naruto on the lips. Pervert. She sucked air through her teeth when she felt him start kissing on her neck. "You know you like it," he said in her ear before he continued kissing on her neck. "You're just as big a pervert as me, you know." "Kyuubi, get off of Naruto and get back in your seat so I can start class," Iruka said with a twitching eye as he walked in and saw the vixen sitting in his lap in bliss. She reluctantly hopped off and sat back at her desk while Iruka cleared his throat. "All right, now we have a new student joining us today. He was transferred here just for the upcoming exams, so treat him well. Come on in, mister. I don't have your name here anywhere." A pale teen with inked black hair and eyes walked into the classroom. He wore a dark purple baggy traditional student's outfit, which was strange since this school had no real dress code. His eyes panned over the classroom emotionlessly until he turned to Iruka, giving him an odd smile. "It's Sai, Iruka-sensei." "Just Sai." He looked back out on the class and Kyuubi could swear his eyes stopped on her and Naruto for just a moment. "Nothing more. I hope you will all take care of me for the length of my time here." The class simply all stared at him, a few girls with hearts in their eyes. Naruto leaned over to Kyuubi and whispered, "I'm not really 100% sure, but I think that kid might be gay." Sai gave the class his strange smile. "Totally gay." A week had passed since Naruto's recuperation from Kakuzu's destruction of him and his return to normalcy. Even though he hadn't been receiving missions, a lot was going on and he was kept very busy, but it wasn't like he needed missions anyway. He had more than enough money to live comfortably and avoid trouble for a whole year, even after he stashed the outrageous sums of money he had made in a safe place for a rainy day. This allowed him to hedge against losing his possessions and minimize the amount of damage he would have to replace them. He had promised Kyuubi that he would study for the exams, and even if he hadn't, he still wasn't going to make a mistake and fail so that Kiba, Sasuke, and all of his other male friends could make fun of him. Fortunately for him, Kyuubi was astute enough to assist him, and her family didn't seem to mind if she occasionally stayed over. Well, Setsuna didn't. Every time Isshin saw Naruto, it seemed as though he wanted to gut him like a trout, though it was probably for the best that he wasn't feeling particularly up to practicing his demonic techniques right now. In any case, Naruto's lack of work meant that he had lots of time to spend with her, which was enjoyable for both of them. He had started training with Jiraiya after school every other day, but the thought did not sit well with him. He swore that Jiraiya was doing everything in his power to put him back on the shelf the moment he showed up, which coincided with the first day he was given the all-clear to do anything combat-related. He believed Jiraiya to be strong, and he was exactly right about that. Spar was the first thing they did, and the only thing they had done all week. Jiraiya gave him a ragged beating. To put it simply, he completely destroyed him. During the week, they trained for 3 hours every day. He would force Naruto to confront him in a spacious area of his living quarters and office and engage in combat. Naruto insisted that despite how hard he was being shut down, he was doing his best to recreate the Kakuzu fiasco. The fights would last no more than 5 minutes apiece, after which he would metaphorically pick his teeth off the ground for 30 minutes before attempting again and starting the whole process over. 3 p.m. up until 6 p.m. Would observe that, according to the schedule Jiraiya worked out for him, this would take place every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. After showing up and getting his ass kicked in for 3 hours, he would limp home to sleep it off before having the next day off from school. He was unable to deny that it was training, since training against someone who was so much more skilled than you was a very effective method. He never managed to get a hand on the man, not even when he upped his game and began to summon demonic chakra. It was really annoying to watch Jiraiya's damn smirk every time he sensed one of Naruto's punches miss and whiz by his face. Jiraiya's disrespect for Naruto's abilities in comparison to his own was obvious. As of yet, Jiraiya was not teaching anything. Whenever Naruto arrived, it would always start with a beating. After the session, he would go see Rin, Shizune, or Tsunade to get his wounds sufficiently healed to allow him to walk home through the streets. The best part of getting Tsunade for him was when she fixed him up. All the body aches on the way home hurt less. However, he wasn't learning anything other than perhaps how to endure a little while longer against overwhelming odds, and he had already come to that conclusion because Jiraiya didn't even try to explain why he kept breaking off his foot in Naruto's ass during each session. He compensated for that small lack of knowledge by learning some wind techniques from his friend Uchiha, who so kindly taught Naruto to master them on his own. These techniques included Fuuten, Kei's Kongu no Jutsu Wind Release, Wind Bolt Jutsu, and Kyuteishi Sudden Stop, which he had managed to steal from Sasuke. When the first jutsu was perfected, it was supposed to produce, as its name suggested, a rippling wind attack that could be compressed into a bolt that resembled a spear and thrown at an opponent. Because he would always dice up his hands when attempting to complete the attack form by holding his hand too close to the jutsu, or because he would not form it at all by holding his hand too wide open to avoid getting diced up, Naruto had a great deal of difficulty learning this and hadn't finished it yet. He should go to the Hyuga mansion. Perhaps they could see the chakra and thus determine the size of the damn spear and the distance he needed to keep his hand apart in order to hold it correctly. The description of the other jutsu almost infuriated him because it was so simple to learn, but as he gave it some thought, he began to grow fonder of the concept. Hand seals weren't necessary, and Naruto's tendency to leap and fall off objects made it ideal. To stop moving, he had to release the wind chakra from one side of his body to the other. It has the ability to stop you cold during a full sprint or, in the case of a fall, to temporarily halt your descent and give the impression that you are hovering. This was another technique to put on the back burner until later. Sasuke wouldn't mind, he couldn't do that jutsu either since wind wasn't even his element. In any case, he couldn't do this one either because the lack of hand seals meant he actually had to feel the wind chakra and had not the slightest idea of how to go about doing that. But Naruto, who was currently resting his head on his desk after the first exam day of the year, wasn't worried about that at the moment. After finishing, everyone was just chatting and waiting to be dismissed. Seat facing, Sasuke asked him, "Do you want to spar with me after school? I need to work on my taijutsu." With a lazy gaze, Naruto said, "No, I can't. It's Monday, so I have to go get my ass handed to me by Ero Sennin again." "So why would you go? Just come with me to train today. Like I said, my taijutsu needs some work," Sasuke said, arching an eyebrow. Naruto questioned, "Then why do you want me to spar with?" "Because," Sasuke replied with a scowl. "You're someone I trust. Kiba's going to go straight home after this and he's the only one better at pure taijutsu than you are. Why don't you trust Kiba? It's not like he'll steal your moves like some people. And again, why would you want me? The more you fight me, the less you'll be prepared for an opponent's taijutsu. I don't use real fighting styles, deputy. I use whatever I can pick up from anywhere." After saying this, Naruto put his head back on the desk until a hand began stroking his upturned cheek, which caused Sasuke to smile. "I came to see you. The exams messed our schedules all up and I haven't seen you today. Aren't you supposed to see that Jiraiya that was supposed to be your sensei today? I thought you would have left by now since school is over," Kyuubi said, grinning as she stroked her boyfriend's whiskered cheek. Reaching into his pocket for his phone, Naruto said, "It's only 1:32 Q-chan. I usually get out until 2:45 and I have 15 minutes to get there so I don't have to be there until 3 o'clock. I've got time." "Hello Sasuke," she said to her lover's black-haired best friend, "Whatever you say, Naru-kun." She sat down on his desk and continued to stroke his cheek. In an attempt to pass the time, Sasuke acknowledged her with a nod. "So what are you guys going to do during summer break?" he inquired. Kyuubi grinned. "My parents are leaving for a pharmaceutical conference in Tasuki no Kuni, so I'm going with them on vacation for a week. Then they have another one in Mizu no Kuni that I'm not going to. I'll spend that stretch of 2 weeks with Naru-kun. After that, who knows? I'm going to be getting beat up by Ero Sennin. He's ruthless. Way worse than Itachi ever was. At least I ended up hitting Itachi with a few good ones when I was on my game," Naruto said, a rain cloud gathering over his head. With narrowed eyes, Sasuke said, "He's not stronger than Itachi." Snorted Naruto. "Well then, why don't you take my place today and tell me how you feel about that after you're done? But yeah, I'm not getting any work coming my way at the moment, so that's all I can see myself doing right now. You need a vacation bad. A real one, not just a day off at home," Kyuubi scowled as she turned to rest Naruto's head in her lap. "There's no time," Naruto said, lightly scratching his scalp with her fingers. "You should train too. I have to make sure I'm ready for whenever Super Cop here gets tired of waiting for himself to get stronger and dives headfirst back into his case." "I am." She responded with some defensiveness. "I just don't have the Terminator mentality that you walk around with all the time when you train. All of my techniques don't destroy stuff." Sasuke laughed and replied, "It's true. Only the most basic kitsune techniques are like that as a foundation for beginners and so that the weaker ones will at least have some kind of skill. I have a lot of higher level illusions." Sasuke responded with a grin. "Then why do you suck at genjutsu? I totally caught you in one when we were sparring that day and you didn't even come close to breaking it." Kyuubi poked her brows and pointed to her eyes. "Those stupid Sharingan eyes of yours. Mom is better at genjutsu than you are. But I can at least crack hers, she layers them. You only used one and that's the only thing I can figure towards why I couldn't break it. I have meaner ones than the one you used, and I'm better at subtle ones. It's how I snuck up on Raiga when we fought him." A sly grin crossed her face. "You'd better hope I never use my best one on you." For an instant, Sasuke turned on his Sharingan, saying, "I'd just break it and be done with it." With his head still resting on Kyuubi's lap, Naruto exclaimed, "Yo, let's put an end to this metaphorical pee fight and concentrate on getting me ready to kick Jiraiya's big, wrinkled, perverted old ass." XXX hours later. Jiraiya's living quarters at Keishahine headquarters. "Okay. I'm fired up today. Get out here, you old sack of shit. I am going to uncork the ASS beating of a lifetime on you. And you will respect me." Naruto yelled loudly as he strode into the quarters and slammed the massive doors leading inside behind him. After exploring the area until he reached the dojo, Naruto saw Jiraiya sitting in the center of the room in a meditative position with his eyes closed. "Alright Ero Sennin, get up so I can put the hurt on you," Naruto said, confusing Jiraiya. Naruto then approached Jiraiya and yelled, "Ero Sennin," he said a little louder. Jiraiya then headbutted Naruto in the face, sending him rolling across the floor. "Gah, what the fuck?" Jiraiya did not respond to Naruto. "Never sneak up on a man who's been in a chemical fire, Gaki," smirked Jiraiya as he leapt to his feet and assumed a fighting stance. "What does that even mean?" Naruto asked, his nose dripping blood and slightly offset. "You know what, never mind. I don't care anymore." With a strained grunt, he cracked his nose back into place. "We'll see if you have that stupid look on your face when I murder you." "Ho ho. Big talk from the runt who hasn't even laid a hand on me after over 9 hours of fighting." Jiraiya chuckled mockingly. With a growl, Naruto charged Jiraiya, saying, "Don't underestimate me." The charge was disastrous as soon as he delivered the first punch that Jiraiya managed to catch in his hand. Naruto then delivered a stiff front kick to his stomach, which caused him to fall back hard against the dojo's sturdy wall, which had withstood every battle so far with ease. "Maybe we should just skip the beating today and get to the part where you cry to Tsunade before walking home with your tail between your legs?" Jiraiya chided. "You've got to get up pretty early in the late afternoon to take on the almighty Jiraiya." Without responding, Naruto just got up, cleaned his blood off his clothes, and said, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu Shadow Clone Jutsu." The room was filled with clones of Naruto, all of whom were glaring at Jiraiya. Greater than 20 in number. Without protest, Jiraiya said, "Well then, line up single file so I can whip your asses in an orderly fashion." This verbal proclamation caused the enraged mass of replications to charge at Jiraiya all at once in an attempt to remove him, yelling, "Hari Jizu Needle Jizu." Jiraiya's hair spread out over his whole body, but the result was evident when the first 10 careless clones who attempted to strike at him ultimately failed due to the follicle's sharpened and hardened form of a metal weapon. The other clones all stepped in front of Jiraiya and, before entering slowly, reached under their pants at the calf to retrieve the big knife that Naruto had hidden there all the time. "Yeah, that's not going to work. Hari Jigoku Hell Needles," Jiraiya said as he stood there motionless, launching a single salvo of needles from his hair in all directions, striking and dispelling the clones in front of him. Naruto yelled, "God damn it!" through the smoke created by Kage Bunshin. It vanished to show that he was lying on the ground with a good number of needles along the length of his left leg. He said, "Tell me this shit won't get infected." When Jiraiya saw Naruto remove all of the needles from his leg and get back up, he deactivated his defense and said, "Nope, but that gives me an idea. Maybe I should put poison in my hair to finish off brats like you that won't stay down. You're cleaning that up, by the way. You still want to fight?" Jiraiya asked. "I'm still standing and conscious, aren't I?" Naruto said, tossing the needles he had removed from his leg to the side. Jiraiya shot back, not for too much longer. With his Yuki drawn, Naruto flashed his fangs at him, making them more noticeable. "I lick a dog's ass with guys like you," he yelled. Jiraiya simply stared at him like a deer caught in headlights, missing when Naruto suddenly charged forward and delivered a right hook to the jaw, snapping Jiraiya's head off and sending him reeling backward before crashing into the wall. "Did I just hit you?" Naruto asked, standing stunned and stretching his arm wide from the blow he couldn't believe he had delivered. "What the hell did you just say?" Jiraiya asked, leaning against the wall and wiping the blood off his lip while continuing to look at Naruto inanely. Naruto glanced up and down. "Well, I figure that particular line has many levels of intimidation. First of all, it's confusing, and anything that's confusing tends to be a little scary. Second, it involves a dog's ass and will lead the recipient of the slur to wonder if I like dogs' asses, and if I do, am I going to rape him after I beat him? It's more than a sane mind can handle." Clearly, Jiraiya remarked, his expression first deadpan and then slightly twisted, but it seems to have worked. "You hit me. Well done, now I can stop being easy on you." A pale Naruto asked, "Wait, what?" Jiraiya rolled his shoulders and exclaimed, "Yeah. Kid, I run this place. Do you really think that was anywhere near the best I could do? I haven't even started attacking you yet. You always handled it for me by rushing in. Haven't you noticed that my both feet have never left this mat at the same time the last 3 times you've been here?" He finished, gesturing to the ground. When Jiraiya saw that he was actually standing on a mat in the dojo that was colored differently from the others, Naruto looked down and saw that he had never moved from that spot, even when Jiraiya would even bother to move out of the way of his actions. Naruto swallowed as he considered that information. So now, with a gleeful voice, Jiraiya took over for him, saying, "Now let's see how long you can survive now that I know what you're capable of attacking." Jiraiya's geta smashed him in the face. "Ow. Motherfucker," in response to Naruto's glare. "I thought that's what I was doing already." Naruto's whimper from his menacing aura was like music to Jiraiya's ears as he cracked his knuckles. "I've been waiting for this for a week. Get moving already. And if you leave the room, I'll make sure Tsunade can't even fix you back up again." Jiraiya's face had a menacing shadow. XXX. As he and Sasuke finished changing into training gear in the gym they were going to spar at, Kiba yawned and said, "I'm gonna be kind of grumpy today, dude. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I was having those dreams of mine again." "What dreams?" Sasuke inquired, almost hesitantly, since he really didn't want to know what kind of dreams a guy like Kiba was having that required him to bring them up. He had just finished tying his shoes and removed his foot from a bench. Kiba shrugged and finished putting on his own shoes. "I could have sworn I told you this before." He responded as though he was discussing the weather. "You know those dreams I have about how it's just me and Akamaru in a castle and we've got to fight like 1,000 knights, and the only way to beat them is to punch them as hard as I can in their faces. Then when I'm all done, all their little knight wives and princesses all come out and want me to have sex with them. Which is kind of weird." Sweat trickling from his brow, Sasuke emerged from the changing room and said, "Yeah, no you didn't. Alright. I'm going to go and get warmed up. Whenever you're ready we can fight." Then, he made his way through the gym to the grappling mat area and exclaimed, "Is there anyone here named Rock Lee?" Lee exclaimed, "Yosh. Who called for me?" from the adjacent ring. When Lee noticed that Sasuke was staring at him because of his bowl cut, bushy eyebrows, and gym clothes, basically, a green mission bodysuit with taped fists and short sleeves and legs, he leapt out of the ring and approached Sasuke, shaking hands and saying, "Hello, I'm Rock Lee. Who are you?" Sasuke gave him a startled look. He was far slower than this guy. To maintain eye contact with the child, he would have needed to rotate his Sharingan. "Hello. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto told me to find you so we could practice taijutsu together." "Ah, Naruto-kun. So he has sent me a new sparring partner to replace him. How youthful of him to send you to me today. Very well, let us begin." Lee exclaimed as soon as Naruto was mentioned. He then ran back to the ring and hopped it, donning his gloves in preparation for the fight. What did that idiot get me into? Sighed Sasuke as he gloved up and entered the ring, moving more slowly than Lee. When Sasuke saw Lee in his own starting position, he stretched out before establishing his stance. Okay, so, let's start, he asked, drawing the boy with the thick eyebrows to move forward. Perhaps he lacks technique and only has speed. As Sasuke delivered a trial blow to Lee's face, he said. In reaction to the jab, he delivered 4 vicious hooks to Sasuke's face with both hands. The final blow was a backhand punch to the body that sent Sasuke reeling backward against the ropes with his hands raised in a feeble attempt to defend himself. When Kiba eventually emerged from the locker room, he exclaimed, "Damn," from outside the ring. Shaking off his cobwebs, Sasuke turned to face Kiba and asked, What happened?" Kiba looked at Lee and said, "That guy hit you like 5 times before you even got your hands up to try and block. I think you should just stop now," he said. "He doesn't even look like he's gotten started on you yet." Sasuke glanced at Lee, who had resumed his waiting position. Turning his Sharingan on, Sasuke turned back to Kiba and said, "Well, I haven't gotten started either. Whatever he's doing, I'll see it now and I'll stop it." "Dude. Don't do it. It's not worth it, you're a pretty boy. Girls want to fuck you, don't mess with that." Kiba palmed his face as he watched Sasuke approach Lee once more. A few audible smacks echoed out, and Sasuke bounced off the ropes leaning against them once more. "So how'd that whole Sharingan thing work out for you?" Kiba palmed his face. "Shut the fuck up, Kiba. Do you want to fight him?" Sasuke spat blood. "That kid in green, I taught him everything he knows. Would you ladies like some free lessons?" Kiba turned to 2 girls observing from nearby and grinned. "No thanks, I'm having enough fun watching you get your ass worn out from here. Come get me when you wake up after he knocks you out. Can't you do anything to help me out here instead of failing to flirt with girls?" glared Sasuke as he leaned back on the ropes. Kiba smiled and asked the women, "Keep your hands up," which made them giggle a little. "And I'm not failing to flirt, am I, girls?" he said in an attempt to help. With a sarcastic, "All right, fuck this, I'm pissed, let's fight," Sasuke knocked his gloves together and strode back outside to confront Lee. "Gee, thanks." After exchanging several circles, Sasuke lunged in and delivered a kick to the body that Lee deflected with his elbow, causing Sasuke to wince. Before Sasuke could appropriately respond, Lee gave him a straight punch to the chest, causing the boy to stoop a little. Sasuke watched as Lee's foot rose inch by inch, but he was unable to stop himself in time to pull his head back and up. "What the hell?" he thought to himself. Sasuke eventually took a rising kick to the face that sent him flying high out of the ring. "I can see him, but I can't dodge him," Kiba exclaimed in amazement as he watched Sasuke soar through the skies. "I am aware of your Kekkei Genkai Sasuke Uchiha, and I do not care. Just because you can see my moves does not make you fast enough to do anything about them. Now witness my trump card." Lee had thrown away his gloves and unwrapped his fists until a weight flew across the room and hit Lee in the head, knocking him away from Sasuke. Kage Buyu shadow of the dancing leaf. Sasuke's eyes widened in shock at the realization that Lee was right beneath him as he continued to fly through the air. While Sasuke continued to fly through the air until he crashed into a shelf of medicine balls, Lee flipped through and landed on his feet, tending to a developing goose egg on his head. "That was awesome how you flew through the air and smacked those medicine balls like a dead fish," exclaimed Kiba as she rushed over to pick him up. Sasuke held himself up by the shelf and moaned in agony, "Thanks a lot." He then gingerly walked over to Lee and, much to Sasuke's dismay, saw another man who was larger than Lee and who bore an exact resemblance to him, down to the eyebrows, the gym clothes, and the haircut. "Lee, I am really disappointed in you. I didn't teach you the Omet Renge front lotus for you to use in a gym around so many people. Are you ready for the punishment?" Lee said, nodding. "Very well." The man then struck Lee across the face with a hard right hand, sending him flying. That made Kiba's and Sasuke's eyes widen. "Holy shit." Kiba then said, I taught that guy everything he knows too." The girls both shook their heads and turned to leave. "Damn. Oh Lee. You're still so young and just entering the springtime of your youth. It's only natural for you to make such mistakes, the man exclaimed, picking Lee up. Guy-sensei. I promise I will not let you down again. I will make you proud of me and improve on my youthful character, shouted Lee and the strange man as they ran towards each other and gave each other hugs. Oh Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. Lee. Guy-sensei. The background changed to a beach at sunset with waves crashing against the rocks, and the two held each other. Sasuke was completely horrified by what he had just witnessed, and to make matters worse, he had his Sharingan activated the entire time from his fight with Lee. Oh Kami, I can't get it out. I can't get it out. God. It's burned into my brain for life, was Sasuke's reaction. Kiba appeared to be moderately impressed. Are you alright? Kiba asked, glaring at Sasuke and rubbing his eyes angrily. Kiba, can you please help us get out of here? Sasuke asked, his eyes watering through his hands. The boy who loved dogs said, I don't know. I mean, this beach is seriously realistic. I can even smell salt water instead of the gym smells. This is really good. Kiba began to try to find his way out of the genjutsu as Lee and Guy continued to cry and hug each other. I am going to set the dobi on fire once I see him again. Sasuke cried out in desperation, just try. XXXHQ of K. Shaheen. As he lay flat on a bed in the medical bay, Naruto let out a sharp cough and exclaimed, Achoo! I'm sick and I got my ass kicked again. As she was tending to his visible wounds, Rin remarked, Stop whining Naruto-kun. Most of the people here would give an arm and a leg to be training with Jiraiya-sama the way you are. Well, if you check the marks on my bicep and thigh, I think I almost actually paid that price, Naruto said, casting her a sardonic glance. With a baby's voice, Rin squeezed his cheek and said, Ah, you're a big boy. I'm sure you can take it. Do you want Rin Nichan to kiss the boo-boo and make it all better? With puppy dog eyes, Naruto asked, Would you? Kakashi and Obito entered the space. After taking a seat on Naruto's bed, Obito said, Hey there, runt. I heard you were on the receiving end of an ass kicking today. That seems to be happening a lot lately. What are you guys doing here anyway? Don't you have somewhere important to be, like doing actual work? Naruto sighed and peered at the ceiling as Rin continued to tend to his wounds. Kakashi smiled with an eye. When it comes to making sure our little brother's self-esteem is good and low, there's no job important enough for us to miss it. It's not fair that whenever you're beat up the only one that ever gets to see you is Rin. Yes, Obito said, we enjoy laughing as well. Naruto looked at Obito and said, When you go to sleep tonight I'm going to sneak into your house and punch you right in the face. Naruto turned his head up and bit Obito hard on the hand. Ow, you little bastard. Obito ruffled Naruto's hair. Oh, I love you too little buddy. Naruto then unleashed a punch to the top of his head, forcing Naruto into a puff of smoke that revealed a log in his place, saying, Oh fucking Kawarimi no jutsu substitution jutsu. I should have never taught you that fucking move. Together, Naruto and Kakashi exclaimed, Blasphemy. You dare sully the divine technique of the log's name with profanity? Naruto asked, pointing at Obito. Obito, I ban you from using the log for 1 month. Maybe that will give you time to reflect on what it really means to you, Kakashi said with a dejected shake of his head. Obito laughed. You know damn well neither of you two can actually do that shit. He sighed. Well, let's test that theory, shall we? Rin Nichan, did you know that Obito Ni has naked pictures of you from when you were 18 in a scrapbook at his house? With a deadly glare in her eyes, Rin turned to face Obito. Then, she struck him on the head, knocking him to the ground. You what? And Naruto-kun knows about them too. You showed Naruto-kun naked pictures of me? She exclaimed, throwing herself on top of him and trying to choke him. Obito exclaimed, Oh wow, right to the mount huh? Not even going to buy me dinner? I like your style. As Rin's hands closed around his throat. What the fuck? He let out a wheeze as he watched Naruto pick up the log from the bed and walk away with it with Kakashi. It actually worked. Hack asterisk. Obito reached out desperately for the log that was being carried further and further away as Rin severely choked him. Naruto turned to face Kakashi and said, How did Obito Ni get naked pictures of Rin Nichan anyway? As he shook his head at the sounds of the commotion behind him and Kakashi's retreating forms. He should know that we use Kawarimi way more than he does. We outrank him on the scale. Kakashi sighed. We weren't dating yet and he paid me good money. It was a simpler time. With an understanding nod, Naruto said, Rin Nichan was hot. Kakashi gave a thumbs up and said, yes, as he resumed reading his book. Yes, she was. She still is. Trust me. XXX the following day. Because he was taking the exams with his friends, Naruto was able to brighten his day a little bit. After all, if you're going to fail at something, it's better to fail in front of people who will always respect and value you. Man. Kiba grinned broadly. You know you fucking bombed that, right? Your hand was shaking like a heroin addict going through withdrawal the entire time. I thought you were going to seize up a few times. Yes, after all, what are friends for? Leave him alone, Kiba. Shikamaru responded. He's already going to be held back, he doesn't need you rubbing it in. Fuck both of you guys. Naruto replied, I'm not as stupid as everyone thinks I am. Naruto nodded in agreement as Kyuubi nodded from her seat and said, yeah, my Naru-kun studied hard for these things. There's no way he failed. With his Kage Bunshin dispelling at the beginning of every exam while he was studying at home, there was no way he was going to fail. It was too late to dispel, which was the only reason he was trembling. He probably scored higher than you, dog boy. He better have, he reasoned. Something had obviously happened. He was going to stab Iruka if he hadn't beaten Kiba by using the study guide as a cheat sheet. With a hand raised in the air to receive a slap in midair from Choji and then Kiba, Naruto broke up an argument by saying, that's not important. Instead, he said, what's important is that school is officially over and I don't have to come back to this hellhole for 2.5 months. Someone give me some. From behind her desk, Sakura shook her head and said, I don't see why you hate school so much. It's not like it's hard or anything. Her cheek was in her palm. After Kyuubi gave him a hard shove in the shoulder, Naruto said, for you. But that's not why he hated it. He didn't mind when things were difficult. In fact, Q-chan enjoyed difficulty. It's so boring. And the worst part is that I have the ultimate tool for skipping school and I can't even use it, Q-chan. Naruto smiled. I'm not going to let you half-ass it all the way through school, Naru-kun. What about college? Kyuubi sighed and blew her bangs out of her face. His expression was deadpan. Woman, I stab people and blow things up for a living. What part of any of that needs me to have an associate's degree? And even then, I can use Kage Bunshin for that too. It's the perfect tool for lazy-ass people. Shikamaru would love it if you weren't too lazy to learn it. Hell, I'd teach you if you had the reserves for it. Oh well, it's over now anyway. So what are we doing today? Kyuubi said, rolling her eyes. I don't need that shortcut, Naru-kun. And you don't either. Just study a bit and things would be fine. Naruto responded with a cheeky grin. Naruto sighed. As much as I don't want to go there today, I have to go see Tenten about my bike. We're stopping at HQ first, then who knows. Just so long as I don't run into Sasuke. I think he wants to hurt me for introducing him to Rock Lee and made a guy, but in my defense I didn't think the second one would be there. Sasuke's really pissed. Kiba smirked. Naruto took it back. Oh yeah, he's been leaving threatening messages ever since yesterday. I wonder if I can sneak out of school before he finds me? Meh, I'll just take the window. XXX city streets, 30 minutes later. To enjoy the warm day, Naruto and Kyuubi chose to stroll rather than run along the rooftops. Since it was summer, Kyuubi had given up jeans in favor of a denim skirt, and Naruto had given up his orange vest, so he was only wearing orange pants and a white t-shirt. Kyuubi asked Naruto, want to come over? Naruto asked, is your dad there? He cheerfully replied, nope, when she didn't answer. Kyuubi sighed, come on Naru-kun, he won't hurt you. He actually likes you, he just doesn't like mercenaries or boys around me in general. Naruto answered, exactly, with a defeated expression on his face. I am all of those things and then some, so he doesn't like me. But I suppose I should just get used to it, right? Okay, I'll come over today. Kyuubi pulled him down into a kiss and said, thank you Naruto-kun. And don't worry, he's all bark and no bite. He won't do anything to you as long as I'm in the room. Kyuubi then gave him another, longer kiss and turned him into a wall. Okay, that should be far enough, she said as they moved down the wall into an alley. They then ran up the walls and stopped when they got to the rooftops. So you smelled it too, did you? Naruto asked her after they had both landed and straightened back up. The really strong smell of ink following us even though we weren't anywhere near school anymore. Yeah. Who is it? Kyuubi asked, nodding and lightly tapping her nose. There's only one guy in school that smells like ink all the time. The new kid, right Sai? Naruto said, scowling. You both guessed correctly. Sai said with a false smile on his face before it dropped. Now if you would both come with me. There's someone that would like to speak with the both of you. Sai appeared in front of them on the roof in a swirl of ink wearing a backpack, strangely wearing such on the last day of school. They both pretended to think about it before giving Sai a smug, nope, look. Sai assumed a fighting stance and said, very well then. He withdrew a tipless tanto from a compartment behind his backpack. It was not provided exactly what kind of speaking condition either of you needed to be in, he said. The two exchanged smiles, and Naruto said, well, Naru-kun, your summer looks like it's going to be interesting to say the least. Sai, who was standing across from them on a rooftop with a tipless tanto drawn, was staring down by Naruto and Kyuubi. While Naruto did not enjoy using his claws, Kyuubi had hers drawn because he believed that punching someone in the face during a fight provided a far greater sense of satisfaction. As they engaged the pale, blank-faced boy, Kyuubi whispered softly enough for Naruto to hear. Do you think he's a sucker for a genjutsu? Kyuubi asked. Naruto sighed and continued, with you saying that, I suppose you're going to be hanging back and providing support while I get in close. He then turned to face Sai, who was reading a completely stone-faced expression. I don't think he's a sucker for anything in particular, Q-chan. It's worth a try though. Naruto rolled his eyes and carefully withdrew his large bowie knife from underneath his pant leg. Kyuubi rolled her eyes at the sight of the weapon, asking, why do you even carry that? Naruto shot her an annoyed glance. Kyuubi shrugged, I wasn't really planning on it, but if you're volunteering. Because of times like this, Sai said to Kyuubi, for when guys carry big metal weapons of their own and I have to keep them from using it to cut and or stab me baby. Any more questions? He then shoved Sai off and watched him return to a neutral position with his tanto in his grip. Sai had taken advantage of the moment and attacked Naruto with his tanto in a downward slash that he blocked with his oversized blade. Yeah. Kyuubi responded, what the hell does this guy want? We've known of him for all of 7 days and he just attacks us out of the blue. Why does he want anything to do with us? Kyuubi gave Naruto a shoulder pat, signaling for him to charge towards Sai. Naruto calmed her down, sensing that she was becoming more and more agitated over this. Calm down, Q-chan. We can ask him after we kick his ass and make him tell us the answer to that. Here I go. When Naruto attempted a stab with his knife in a reverse grip, Sai's tanto blocked it. With a few backward steps, Sai unleashed a barrage of blade strikes that Naruto managed to deflect with his own body. Sai attempted to cut down on Naruto's toes to impair his movement, but Naruto dodged the blow and retaliated with a kick to a ducking Sai who spun around to dodge Naruto's foot. Kyuubi waited a moment to intervene, keeping a close eye on the fight. She was positive that she and Naruto would have been stepping on each other's toes in the battle if she had just jumped in at the beginning, based on how Sai was handling himself so erratically. They never truly collaborated to combat adversaries. Upon witnessing the pair reunite in a battle of wills, she promptly started creating hand seals using the Maokai Yuka no Jutsu breaking floor technique. Sai was fighting Naruto when he felt the roof give way beneath him, making it difficult for him to maintain his balance and forcing him to refocus in order to stay upright. Due to his disorientation, Naruto cocked his fist back, but before he could avoid it, the force of the blow sent him sliding back across the rooftop. Naruto then punched him in the jaw. When Sai looked over at Kyuubi, who was holding a hand seal, he realized that his balance was still off. Focusing his gaze on her, Sai produced a semi-tiger seal, Kai. Regaining his footing, he evaded several more blows from Naruto's knife, which if they had struck him would have likely severed vital tissue near his neck. From the sidelines, Kyuubi nearly pouted, damn it, he broke it. Well, you can't expect him to suck at genjutsu like I do. Assume he's really good at it. Why don't you use your best genjutsu on him? Naruto said, taking a step back to avoid overexposing himself with his attack. Not that he could see it from the fight he was in, Kyuubi shook her head and said, if I used it here, then it would affect everyone. You and me included, And I haven't worked out how to function with it myself yet. You'd be a sitting duck if I did it, no questions asked. Kyuubi's apparent trump card seemed to have no practical use, and Naruto complained. Fine, I'll beat him anyway, so I guess you won't need it anyway. Sheathing his tanto, Sai stated simply, I will be in touch. That will be enough for now, I suppose. Kyuubi and Naruto both exclaimed, wait, what? This guy follows them at first, tries to fight them, and then, before anything even gets started, just walks away. How in the hell? Kyuubi continued on, what do you mean, you'll be in touch? We don't want to see your creepy ass ever again. What was this all about? You will both find out very soon, Sai said, largely ignoring her ire at the situation. Then, he reached into his backpack and took out a scroll, which he unfolded, giving them both pause. Taking out a brush, he sketched Chaoju Giga Super Beast's imitation on the scroll. As he finished, a big bird materialized from Sai's work, allowing him to leap onto its back and take off. When Naruto grabbed Kyuubi by the wrist, she exclaimed, wait, damn it, he can fly, and created a blue fireball on her fingertip. What's wrong, Naru-kun? Naruto turned to face Sai, who was taking off, and said, let him go, Q-chan. He was feeling us out for whoever it is that was interested in us. They're not going to try and hurt us, or else this fight would have gotten heated quickly. This was really relaxed compared to what it should have been. Naruto then put his knife away and sighed, why does this always have to happen on my days off? With a confused blink, Kyuubi said, relaxed? But you both had deadly weapons out. Yeah. Naruto replied, we did. Your point? Q-chan, I've been playing with deadly weapons since I was at least 7. Every mercenary I know teases other mercenaries with deadly weapons. Trying to stab someone is more or less how we say hi sometimes. My boyfriend is a sociopath, Kyuubi said, shaking her head pitifully as she fixed him a blank stare. Well? Aren't we supposed to be going to Keishahin HQ today? She shrugged as she made her way to the edge of the roof. Following her to the edge of the roof, Naruto said, standing beside her, I'm not a sociopath. I just have mild sociopathic tendencies. Yes, she replied with joy, giving him another cheek pinch. You're a sociopath. That's what I said. And with that, they leapt into the street to resume their stroll. XXXHQ of Keishahin, 45 minutes later. As they made their way to the headquarters garage area, where Tenten had been working on Naruto's car, Naruto, Kyuubi, and Tenten said, you were both attacked on the way here by your classmate? Tenten shook her head and turned to face Naruto. And that's why you needed a cover, Naruto. I know that, thank you. Naruto sighed, I've had this conversation 100 times since it was blown all those months ago. It's alright. If I need help, I'll ask for help when whatever happens goes down. Until then, what about my ride? Tenten replied as they made their way to her workstation, right. Naruto's fully restored Kawasaki Ninja 650R motorcycle was painted bright orange with a blue leather seat, as she discovered when she removed the tarp. Oh my goodness! How amazing you are! Gasp, and how on earth did you get the seat to be blue? It's absurd! Naruto cried as he hurried over to take a closer look. Well, you did pay me after all. But yeah, the paint's only one thing I was able to do. Though why you want to look like a tangerine speeding down the road is beyond me, Tenten said, smiling shyly as she rubbed the back of her head. Then, turning from his admiration for his bike, Naruto glared at Tenten, saying, I owe you and I'm grateful for the amazing job you probably did on such short notice, but please don't tear into orange in my presence, Tenten. It's not a very good idea. At the subtle threat, Tenten, who was drenched in perspiration, turned to face Kyuubi and asked, have you tried weaning him onto more adult colors? Kyuubi gave a sad face. He fought me every step of the way. I was able to get a few shirts and pants into his wardrobe, but look at the pants he's wearing now. That should tell you all you need to know. She exhaled, well, at least the color suits him. She reached over to the bike and pulled up a handmade book, which she threw at Naruto. I put everything you're going to need to know about this thing in here. I completely redid the interior engine, replaced your transmission, and made it so that you don't have to worry about blowing yourself to Kingdom Come at a stoplight, and added some things, Tenten said, looking sheepishly away. Well anyway, listen up because we're just getting started, she said, clearing her throat. With a sharp gaze, Naruto said, Tenten, what? Replied the girl with buns. Do you know what kind of budget you gave me to work with? Double the amount I actually asked for. The parts one needed that you asked for weren't as expensive as I first thought. I had money to play around with, and you gave me enough time to do it, as well as the fact that once I did install what you wanted done I got ideas of my own to work on. Her pupils then widened, and thank you for the birthday present Naruto. I love what you let me get for myself. Kyuubi gave Naruto an odd look and said, you got her a birthday present? Nodded. Yeah, she's a friend of mine. I get my friends presents. Don't be like that. Your gift cost more than hers did. I got the bill for it. Kyuubi defensively raised her hands and said, I didn't say a word. Naruto said, you wanted to. Turning back to Tenten, he said, but what did you do and how does it work? Grinning, Tenten strolled over to the bike to demonstrate its capabilities. Okay, first of all I put in a heads-up display in the visor like the ones I put in your goggles. How do they work by the way? Tenten said, sitting atop the bike to start it. I haven't tested them in a mission scenario yet, but I have played around with them and a friend of mine named Sakura says they work great, Naruto said, gesturing to the goggles that were resting on his forehead. Tenten nodded, then tapped a button on the body next to the visor, bringing up a real-time HUD. You can see your speed, the street you're on in any country in the world, and how many miles of gas you have left, she said. You have auto-targeting, she tapped another button close by. How much damage your bike has taken, if something in its system is wrong or something, Tenten nodded. Auto-targeting. All I asked for was a handy shuriken dispenser to deposit stuff for me to easily throw, said Naruto, raising an eyebrow in tandem with his girlfriend. You don't have to worry about throwing them yourself. The bike will target and aim for you so you can just drive, fire, and forget. Lock-on icons were set on the bullseyes on the HUD. I know, Tenten gushed. But I took that idea and put it in and then I took it further, so now. She got off the bike and dragged a nearby plywood wall with bullseyes drawn on it in front of the bike before getting back on. Tenten depressed a button near the throttle on the handlebars, causing the motorcycle to shoot shuriken quickly out of 4 separate front apertures under the headlight. Tenten used Naruto and Kyuubi's startled expressions as a sign of approval, saying, you have 4 separate lock-on targeting systems and can fire one or any number of the 4 shuriken loaded. You have 10 shots per container and the amount you have will be on the HUD. How did you do all of this? I thought you were just good with tools, weapons, and mechanics, Naruto said, pointing to the bike. Yes, I am, and nowadays everything you just said deals with computers and other kinds of technology as well. I've just never had to use it before, Tenten said, placing her hands on her hips after getting off the motorcycle. This is fun, she clapped her hands together, alright, we're just getting started. Time to show you what else this thing can do, with a pleased giggle. What else can this thing do? Kyuubi asked, hesitantly once more. What else did you do to this thing? They both nodded, and Tenten smiled at her, holding up the homemade manual. I wouldn't have made this if I had only put in 1 or 2 things. Hey, you want to see something cool? She said, getting back on the bike. No fucking way. Naruto exclaimed as he turned to face Tenten, who was sitting on the bike. How did you do that? He asked, before swatting at Tenten, who vanished in a cloud of smoke to reveal a log where she and the motorcycle had been. With pride on her face, Tenten got off the bike and said, I know you like that jutsu so I put countermeasures in the bike in case you needed to do that. You have 3 uses and then you have to put logs back in it. It also uses 3 times the chakra from you that a normal kawarimi would do. Tenten, I think I love you, you're so cool, my motorcycle can do kawarimi? That's insane. Naruto swept her off her feet with a bone-crushing hug. I'm not taking that back. I swear. Tenten, from now on you are officially the Q to my James Bond. Kyuubi said with a laugh. Tenten, who had not yet been put down, arched an eyebrow and asked, Ian Fleming plot or original content storyline? Naruto laughed and dismissed her inquiry, Ian Fleming plot. That makes me way more badass. He nodded his head, but anyway, I've got money and nothing to really spend a lot of it on. I want you to use every insane idea in your pretty little head that you think would be useful, bring it to me. I'll beta test it, and if it works I get to keep it and you can try and sell it. With $ for eyes, Tenten said, anything you say, Naruto-kun. I have so many ideas, I'll be. Then, before Tenten became overly excited, Naruto put his finger to her lips and said, show me, don't tell me. I like being surprised. Then, he looked around and found a helmet, which he handed to Kyubi. Can I take it out of here? Tenten asked. Tenten gave a nod. Yes, it's done. Just remember to read that manual so that you know how everything works, okay? And I'll call you whenever I have something I want you to test. This is going to be great. With that, Kyubi put the orange helmet on her head and said, Okay Tenten, I'll see you soon. Naruto then turned on his motorcycle and grinned broadly because he could feel that it was more powerful than when he had dropped it off. He sat on the bike and put his goggles down on his face. He parked and drove off, enjoying the features of his new car. He exited through the garage. XXX After 2 days, Naruto and Sasuke were making their way through a Konoha metro station in order to get ready to board the train and travel to the city's periphery. Because of the heat, Naruto had his orange vest closed and nothing underneath, along with a white pair of short and white shoes. Sasuke was wearing a dark blue, short-sleeved polo shirt with buttons undone and the collar popped upward, something Naruto had been teasing him about all day. After Naruto kept boasting about his upgraded bike, Sasuke stole the instruction manual from him, and Sasuke had to admit he was right. Tenten wrote, "This thing is bad. Did you know your bike can?" in the handbook, and Sasuke whistled and widened his eyes as he read it. Naruto interrupted him. I don't want to know, deputy. I would rather find out through personal experience when I ride it and can test the stuff out. That line of thinking was dismissed by Sasuke as foolish, saying, yeah whatever. But seriously, this thing lets you channel chakra through it and you can do stuff like. Sasuke, I don't want to know. Let me find out all on my own, seriously. Get your own kick-ass bike and then you can tell everybody within earshot what it does. The two of them boarded the subway. I still don't know why we didn't just take the motorcycle to get there. Then I could test it. Because there's no way in hell I'm riding on the back of a motorcycle with another guy. That's something you do with your girlfriend, not me. Squinted Sasuke's eyes and returned the manual to Naruto. Why are we going to the outside of town anyway? This seems like a waste of time, he asked, surveying the crowd as they piled into the train. Naruto sighed as they sat down on, I don't know. Ero Sennin just handed me a mission scroll when I showed up for training yesterday, gave me the day off, and said I have work today now that school's over. And you just wanted to come along because you're bored. Yes, I'm bored. I'm not working on the case, school is out for the summer, Itachi is teaching the special forces so I can't train with him, and dad is always super busy. There's nothing to do, Sasuke said, rolling his eyes. What's the mission anyway? He asked Naruto, who had his mission scrolled out to read. Naruto sighed. Another protection detail, I'm getting sick of those. They're all I'm getting. And the client is a mystery, the scroll said he'd find us when we got there. Sasuke replied, that's rough. Just so I know, I'm getting some of the money for this, right? As the train began to move, Naruto said nothing. He put in his earphones and began listening to music to kill time because they would be traveling for more than an hour to get to their destination given all of the stops throughout the city. Sasuke was searching through his backpack for something to occupy himself with. After 15 minutes, both boys were incredibly bored and began to find mild entertainment in people watching. They saw an adolescent sitting opposite them and staring at them from the people who were observing. His hair was dark gray and he had a long bang that covered one eye. He was wearing what looked to be brown eyeliner and blue lipstick to match his beaded necklace. He was dressed in a black sleeveless shirt, black jeans, brown boots, and black wristbands with spikes on his arms. He was also wearing an odd purple rope tied around his waist. But what stood out the most about him was the object that appeared to be sticking out of his upper back. When Naruto and Sasuke saw that the person was staring at them, they immediately returned the stare. The man, who appeared to be their age, had a kind of sly smile on his face. Naruto hit Sasuke in the arm. Hey deputy. That guy's totally checking you out. Go on. You can finally get yourself a boyfriend to take care of you, and he looks even more emo than you. Go get him, Sasuke. Naruto took a hard blow to the arm from Sasuke, who said, go fuck yourself, Dobi. He's looking at you. He seems like he'd go for the more exotic looking ones like you. Sasuke Uchiha. Yeah, Sasuke said, as if he truly didn't want to hear what this guy had to say. God damn it, Sasuke muttered, noticing the smirk on Naruto's face at hearing his friend's name called out by the strange teen. Good. The individual replied, "My name is Saken. In the interests of my master, he has instructed me to ask you to follow me." "Is this the guy that asked you to do the same thing the other day?" the Uchiha asked Naruto, drawing both Sasuke and Naruto's eyebrows up in curiosity. Turning to face the now identified Saken, Naruto shook his head and said, "No, but they do look like they could possibly be gay. Let's find out for sure. What if he says no? How are you supposed to respond to that?" Naruto asked. Saken laughed. "I was instructed that obtaining Sasuke Uchiha was my paramount goal and that nothing was to obstruct it. Now Sasuke, don't make me kill your friend and hurt you to get what I want." Naruto and Sasuke both burst out laughing. Saken was given a thumbs up by Sasuke, who said, "He thinks he can beat both of us at the same time. There's two of us and one of him. This would be a total slaughter." Naruto chuckled. "It's definitely not for the same guy that wanted me to go with him. At least he was smart enough to fight in the open so he could run away when he was outmatched. Where is this guy going to go when we start kicking his ass?" The other passengers on the train shifted to make room for Saken as he got to his feet and began to crack his fists. "I really think you should take this under serious consideration. I know of you both and I am able to handle you both at the same time. I assure you of that," Saken said. After exchanging glances, the two boys got to their feet and put their backpacks back on their shoulders. Naruto broke his neck as Sasuke began to roll out. "I'm only going to tell you this one time with all the humility I can possibly summon up. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I am the greatest fighter that has ever lived, period. You will not beat me, so save yourself the pain and humiliation and save me the time and the chance of breaking my hand on your face and just walk away. You're not getting paid enough to deal with me, trust me." Saken chuckled. "Well then show me and prove it, or get out of my way and let Sasuke Uchiha come with me." With a shrug, Naruto said, "Whatever you say." He then hurled his backpack aside and used the momentum to swing it at Saken, who raised his arm to deflect a blow intended for his head. It was fortunate that he did too, as the backpack weighed a ton. As Sasuke advanced and threw his fist at Saken, who grabbed it and flung Sasuke to the side, towards the bystanders, Naruto withdrew his backpack. However, Naruto had long since put his backpack back on from his opening surprise attack and delivered a punch to Saken's body that took his breath, allowing Sasuke to shift in the air off of the strange boy's arm and deliver a downward kick that caught him in the head and sent him to the floor. Sasuke caught himself using a pole meant to help people stand on the train and swung back around at Saken to deliver a kick that the opponent blocked again. With a sneer on his face, Saken pulled himself to his feet and remarked, "Lucky shots," adding that it wouldn't happen again. Beside each other, Naruto and Sasuke assumed fighting stances. Naruto laughed as he said, "Me and Sasuke Teme have been fighting together since elementary school. 2-on-1 you can't touch us. Hell, 2-on-2 you'd still be hard-pressed to match us." Sasuke laughed with his companion. "So either pick yourself a partner from the people here, or just let me arrest you now and save us the run around. Either way, you're going to jail so it doesn't matter to us, and we were looking for something to occupy our time on this long-ass train ride anyway. You two are just a couple of justice-driven bleeding hearts," Saken said with a dangerous flash of his eyes. "Cute," he replied, "but we haven't even gotten started yet." A smirk returned to his face. "Because you two have one major disadvantage that I don't." Both were confused by his intentions until he suddenly threw 2 handfuls of shuriken at the large area. Using his Sharingan, Sasuke quickly avoided the ones aimed at him and hurried Saken to attack him, only to realize that there were still far too many that avoided him. Glancing over his shoulder, he saw that Naruto had Kage Bunshin brandishing their bowie knives, preventing the shuriken from injuring the others. With his head turned back towards Saken, Sasuke saw the maniacal teenager approaching him in slow motion, his fist cocked back. Terenkan multiple connection punches. Saken unleashed a punch that sent Sasuke flying backwards, but Sasuke was too late to block it. Although it appears that the punch originated from 3 separate arms joined together in the middle, Sasuke's eyes were always spot on. "Sasuke!" Naruto exclaimed as he saw Sasuke take the punch and be launched into the air, crashing through the crowd and knocking them unconscious. Naruto turned back to Saken and said, "Worry about yourself." But instead he took a punch to the face, which caused him to stagger to the side and fall into a sitting position on the bench. Naruto slid his head and body to the side, watching as Saken's fist crashed through the window behind him, breaking the glass like a spiderweb. After kicking Saken in the body to startle him, Naruto launched a kick from his side that was intended for Saken's head. Saken was startled when an arm shot out of his shoulder to prevent Naruto from hitting Saken in the head. As the arm re-entered Saken, Naruto asked himself, "What the fuck?" After grabbing hold of Naruto's leg, Saken swung him off the bench and into the metal pole, causing a nice dent in the metal with his body colliding with it. Reeling from the blow, Naruto dropped to his hands and knees, only to have Saken's boot tip drive a hole in his ribs. Terenkyaku multiple connecting kicks, or what felt like 3 distinct, equally hard, and uniformly spaced boots striking him squarely in the ribs. Even though he was completely recovered, he was still sensitive because it had only been a week since his clearance, and that blow really got to him. Saken laughed as he watched Naruto spit out blood after his kick struck him in the body. "I don't know what the master sees in your Uchiha friend, but I sure don't get it," Saken exclaimed. "You will." Saken was caught off guard by 2 arms that jutted out of his back as Sasuke charged at him from behind. Trying to think of it as a potential weak point, Sasuke twisted himself in midair and kicked the strange growth sticking out of Saken's back. Without much hesitation, Saken spun around and delivered an axe kick, which Sasuke parried, bringing him face to face with Saken, who appeared enraged by Sasuke's blow. When he saw that everyone had been evacuated to a different vehicle, he exclaimed, "Like I said, a bleeding heart. You're not worth my master's time." "Can we get a name for the guy that we're saying, 'fuck you' to?" growled Naruto, appreciative that Sasuke had arrived and removed Saken from him. "You keep talking about this master of yours." Saken bit his tongue at the last second and glared spitefully at Naruto, saying, "It doesn't matter what you say to me, trash. You'll be dead in a matter of minutes." Thankful that it hadn't broken yet, Naruto took out his cell phone and said, "Well, you have 30 minutes to shut my mouth before these doors open and your ass gets hauled off to jail." You can bet Itachi is going to be getting his ass in gear after he hears that you're trying to kidnap his little brother. You do know Itachi Uchiha, don't you? Saken recoiled at the mention of Itachi, remarking, "Wow. So other people do piss their pants at the thought of fighting Itachi." Naruto turned to Sasuke and asked, "What do we have to do to get respect like that?" Repositioning himself, Sasuke said, "That's not really respect, Dobi, that's fear." "Respect, fear, whatever. The point is, I want that," said Naruto, picking his ear. Saken scowled, "It's time to wake up, dear brother." He grinned, "Then I guess I'll have to hurry this up and get the Uchiha." Before a different voice could be heard, Saken said, "This had better be good, Saken. You know how I hate getting involved for nothing." Naruto and Sasuke both gave him a strange look. Looking at the writhing growth on Saken's back, Sasuke exclaimed, "What the fuck?" Saken laughed when he noticed his brother was waking up. "Oh, it is Yukon. We're here for the Uchiha, and this blonde piece of trash decided to get in our way. You can handle him however you like. I know you're impatient. If I let you fight the Uchiha, you might just kill him." With that, Yukon's body seemed to split off from Saken's to take his own, dressed identically save for the spiked wristbands and beaded necklace. He complained, "Fine. I'll deal with the rodent." He charged at Naruto right away, but the latter parried his barrage of blows, sending him smashing into the train car door in the process. As Yukon attempted to strike again, Naruto leapt up and grabbed an overhead bar, kicking Yukon square in the chest to turn the tide of battle in his favor. As Saken was coming forward and had just freed his brother, Sasuke attempted to take advantage of him. Sasuke attempted a front high kick, but Saken blocked it. Sasuke then spun back around and delivered a spinning backfist to the twin he was fighting. "That is the famed Sharingan that Master is so interested in," Saken growled as the force of the shot caused his head to snap to the side. Saken was here to target the Sharingan. And the best course of action is to send me after the family's infant. Nevertheless, he has some talent. The only one I can think of to oppose an older one would be a weaker one due to a weaker bloodline. But I'll still prevail. Yukon forcefully body-checked Naruto into the door once more, depriving him of air. Naruto could feel Yukon attempting to lift himself off the ground double-leg style, so he delivered several hard elbows to the back of his neck and upper back. Before finally picking Naruto up, Yukon gave him a hard knee to the legs and stomped on his feet to throw off his equilibrium. After backing up a few solid steps, he forced Naruto through the door and released him. After bouncing off the outside of the door onto another vehicle and falling, Naruto's head hung over the gap between them, providing him with a clear view of the track they were racing over. He raised his head to see Yukon's foot approaching him, which he managed to block before Yukon struck the side of his head with his knee. Naruto nearly lost his balance and fell between the cars, but he managed to catch himself by placing his hands on one and his feet on another. Naruto resisted Yukon's attempts to knock him down with a forceful stomp on his back. Naruto took a chance and got tired of being beaten up, so he gave himself a strong push to get up and set himself and Yukon on separate cars. Yukon was thrust backwards and backwards against their respective cars by Naruto's thrust kick to the stomach. They were both breathing heavily. Naruto didn't understand why Yukon was exhausted because he had been fighting quickly the entire time. They were only getting started. Naruto had a deja vu moment when a strange marking appeared and spread from Yukon's forehead over his whole body. Naruto recalled his altercation with the bouncer right away. Before those markings showed up, everything was supposed to be simple, but then everything went to hell. "I'm sick of playing with you," Yukon replied, "trash like you should know when to lay down and die." "But trash wouldn't be so annoying if it just disappeared when it was convenient, would it?" Naruto smirked as the two stood no more than 5 meters apart. Before he closed the distance and forcefully pushed Naruto into the next car using only his strength, he had very little momentum, Yukon remarked, "Well-said words for a dead man." Glancing around, he realized he was back in a car with people, and since Sasuke wasn't there to get them out, he was going to need to use extreme caution during this fight. XXX Sasuke against Saken. Saken stood there staring at Sasuke, who was patiently waiting for him to move. Saken was the one with a clock on her, and Sasuke was in no hurry. He had 30 minutes to find Sasuke and disappear before the full force of the Konohagakure police force, led by Uchiha, unleashed its wrath on him and his brother. But he couldn't depart without Sasuke accompanying him. That would be the ultimate punishment for his inadequacy. "We don't have to fight, you know," Saken replied. "Really, it would be better for you if you just came with me. Orochimaru-sama sees much potential in you, more than anyone else in your family. Clearly, since they were never good enough to get anywhere near him all those years ago." "Orochimaru? That's who sent you after me?" Sasuke asked, his eyes widening. "Well, allow me to extend my generosity towards his generous offer." Pressing forward harder than before, Sasuke said. Saken was just as quick as Sasuke, but for all the benefits of having Sasuke's Sharingan active, Saken might as well have been slower. Sasuke was able to see the young soldier from Orochimaru's attacks and parry them appropriately. When Sasuke retaliated physically, Saken was unable to respond or counter quickly enough to prevent him from striking Saken in the face or body with a fist or a shin. He was kicked in the side of the face, causing him to collide with the subway car's icy glass surface. Before Sasuke's fist could forcefully sandwich his head between it and the window, he rolled away. Sasuke withdrew his hand and shook his fist, cutting it when the last blow cracked the glass. "You'll witness the power that Orochimaru-sama can give when I break your body here and now," was a strange marking that spread from Saken's forehead down his body as he gritted his teeth at the thought of Sasuke winning. Alright, this guy was fucking fast now, so it was bad for Sasuke. Quicker than he was. Though Sasuke wasn't as quick as Rock Lee, he could have been seriously hurt by the 3 blows that struck his face with force, putting him in danger. What were those supposed to be markings? They gave him a supercharge and immediately re-entered the battle? Saken looked at him smugly. "Just give up. I'm not sure if I'd get in trouble for sending you to Orochimaru-sama piece by piece, but I'm not afraid to. Laughs asterisk as far as I'm concerned you're just an overrated piece of trash not worth his time." He gestured to himself. "You're not worth being given this power." Sake grabbed Sasuke by the collar and slammed him into the steel pole before being lifted off the ground and held there. Sasuke strained to say, "I don't want you power because it's not yours, it's borrowed." He tightened his grip on Saken's arm, then punched him 5 times in the face. Before the furious boy could launch an attack, he was dropped to the ground and moved back, still holding Saken's slack arm. "Why would I want power from a psychopath like Orochimaru anyway? He hides like a rodent. He knows who I am and what I'm doing, but he won't face me. He sends his cronies like you to do it for me." You can take Orochimaru's power, and you can shove it right up your, Sasuke said as he leapt back as hard as he could, dragging Saken by the arm and pulling the man face first into the pool with enough force to produce a loud, ringing clang sound with his skull. Saken growled and stepped forward once more, completely changing as his hair grew longer, his skin turned red, a single horn appeared on the left side of his head, and his right arm, possibly the entire right side of his body, became what appeared to be armor-hardened. This fight began with an extremely dangerous jutsu use right from the beginning, with Sasuke leaning against the door on the opposite side of the vehicle and making hand seals that read, Kaden. Housenka no Jutsu Fire Release. Phoenix Flower Jutsu. All of his wire was in his backpack, and he wasn't given enough time to covertly reach for it. Initially, there were too many people around to do so safely. Secondly, something as large as his grand fireball was too big to use in a subway car without possibly turning it onto himself. Saken was only slightly slowed down by the smaller fireballs, and as they tore through some of his clothes, it became clear that, yes, the entire right side of his body did indeed resemble an armored figure. With a grunt of pain, Saken absorbed the blows that struck his body, extinguishing the flames that shot from it, and then punched Sasuke squarely in the stomach against the door, severely denting it in the process and sending Sasuke to his knees. We'll capture you and bring you to Orochimaru-sama. Your friend, the blonde nobody who thought it would be a good idea to fight. My brother will take care of him in the cruelest way we can. He's not nearly as nice as me. He hates long fights. Saken said, pulling Sasuke back up by the neck and pushing him against the dented door that was obviously not going to open ever again due to the damage done to it. Sasuke's mind had been racing ever since Saken's hit nearly caused him to lose consciousness. However, Saken spoke too much for his own good. See, if Sasuke had been in better physical shape, he would have substituted Saken's words with a barrage of blah, 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 and random generic bad guy monologue, while eagerly awaiting the fight to break out. But Sasuke's mind forced itself to come up with a strategy to gain the upper hand once he realized that, in a straight fight, he wouldn't survive long enough to even reach the next stop. Being beaten up by Itachi taught him when he was outmatched. His hands were not raised. Saken was holding Sasuke's neck with one hand while acting haughtily, not having his other free hand ready to defend him in the event of a desperate attack. In a real fight, you never lower your guard unless it's a sparring match or your opponent is dead, and even then, it's not recommended. He believed Sasuke to be a quitter and that he had been defeated. He believed he fought justly. This was his error since, despite his training as a police officer and his moral sense, he believed that right and wrong had no place in a fight. Sasuke had only avoided demise so far because Saken appeared accustomed to protecting his possessions. However, he opened the door for another dirty fight that Sasuke saw as practically being given to him, especially since he was elevated off the ground and in close proximity to Saken's eyes. Watch how quickly he moved from 4 inches away. Hands up, bitch. Shinkei Hakai nerve disruption. Sasuke exclaimed, shooting his hands out from his sides to cover Saken's eyes with his palms. Sasuke had been studying jutsu scrolls that he had been lucky enough to obtain, especially after learning that lightning was his second elemental affinity. Sasuke momentarily disrupted Saken's nerve by sending a short, accurate lightning pulse to that specific location. Normally, this would cause something to become temporarily numb and useless, much like when an arm falls asleep and becomes as useful as a limp noodle. Meanwhile, Sasuke struck Saken in the eyes in this instance, and the same thing transpired, but with Saken's eyes. Essentially, he rendered Saken as sightless as a bat, and he was powerless to reverse it, since eyes, whether they had strange, bizarre transformation abilities or not, were inherently vulnerable. Saken dropped Sasuke right away and started rubbing his eyes angrily. He didn't feel any pain, but everything became dark as soon as Sasuke covered them with his palms. Not that he was seeing spots. Anyone would be terrified to find themselves suddenly blind, so he collapsed and started flailing around, kicking at anything and everything, screaming for Sasuke to appear and threatening to eat him when he did. You know, the typical things that happen when one becomes blind. Tell me everything you can about Orochimaru. When Saken heard Sasuke's voice, he became enraged at how composed he sounded. He was a mess up until that dirty trick happened, so why was he acting so composed and in control now? Fuck him, you'll find out everything yourself when I bring you to him. Though I don't know how useful you'll be paralyzed. He stood up and leaned his back against the closest wall, his vision beginning to return. The door that he had punched Sasuke and destroyed. I'm sorry to hear that. Especially since you won't be doing anything to me anytime soon. You can just consider yourself under arrest. Saken had run metal wiring throughout the entire car, from the first bar connecting the long bench on the side to the ceiling all the way to the other side where he was standing by the door that Naruto and Yukon had blasted open and broken with a victorious smirk on his face. You think this will hold me here? He yelled. Saken's vision returned, first blurry, then steady enough to see clearly, and his jaw dropped. What have you done? Never did Sasuke's grin fade. Yeah, actually I really do. Saken laughed as well. You think I got on this train with no exit strategy? Sasuke's smirk dropped in exchange for a gaze. The second I got on this train, my allies sent a call out. If this train stops while I'm still on it, explosives will be detonated on every other car, taking every single person out. He started laughing. Don't you get it? You're not getting any help. No one's coming to arrest me except you, and you can't even get me off this train. You won't get another lucky shot like the one you just got. And eventually I'm going to break through this and finish you off. And even if I don't, my brother should be finishing up with that poor chump you had with you and should be on his way to finish you himself. And you lose. So what happens if you die? Saken stopped laughing and said, What? Sasuke's expression was icy. You heard me. What happens if you die on this train and can't get me off? What happens then? It seems like a waste to do anything after I kill you and the train doesn't stop. Even if you blew the explosives at that point, what purpose would that serve except to come off as an act of terrorism and put focus back on Orochimaru, which is abundantly clear he doesn't really want if you not saying his name while others were on the car is any indication. Hell, you even said failing your mission would end with you dying, so your exit strategy isn't really so sound. Why you can't kill me? Sasuke replied to Saken, You're a cop. Don't you have to read my rights and take every measure to bring me in alive? With a shrug, Sasuke pointed to the empty car where no one was present and remarked sarcastically, I'm actually a trainee. And you were resisting arrest. I mean, look at all of these witnesses. With a slow, deadpan voice, Sasuke began to make hand seals and said, No don't. He went on in a monotone, Stop. This is your last warning. Surrender. As Saken attempted to maneuver himself through the unsightly, uncontrollable web of wire that Sasuke had strung up, he cried out, No don't. Stop. Sasuke sighed. You're just like every other bad guy I've ever dealt with. First you try to fight, then you try to run, and now that you realize you have no way out, you're either going to bribe me or try to reason with me. Orochimaru-sama will give you power. Just let me live. Saken tried to flee after hearing that, but he was discovered. Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu Fire Release. Dragon Flame Jutsu. Right on cue. Sorry, but a madman's power isn't worth the lives of others. Sasuke said, finishing his hand seals and inserting the end of a wire into his mouth. And sorry for the long wait. I just needed you to get in the wire like an idiot to try and run so I could actually finish you off with this. A fire shot out of Sasuke's mouth, engulfing Saken's body as he struggled to free himself and ran the length of the wire he had strung up in the vehicle. His body was fully cooked inside the subway car as he screamed in agony. In order to verify the kill, Sasuke leaned against the wall outside the entrance and said, You should be thanking me. Now at least when you go to hell you'll be used to the climate. XXX. In the interim, Naruto vs. Yukon. Though Naruto was aware that Yukon's markings would make the fight much more difficult, he wasn't prepared for Yukon to change in front of him, turning red and sprouting a horn. That's the end of it. Everyone who witnessed it ran screaming from the car, leaving only Naruto and Yukon inside. Cynically, Naruto thought, well, that takes care of one problem. Yukon's speed evidently picked up even more as he approached Naruto head-on once more. Naruto was able to discern his strength when he was struck in the face and momentarily lost visibility while sliding across the floor. Ironically, the blow to his head from a bar that led to the ceiling caused him to regain consciousness. Just because you're a real monster doesn't mean anything. You're still going to die, Naruto said, shocking Yukon with his attempt to match his power as he grabbed the pole and pulled himself up. Naruto then channeled enough Yuki to take on a feral appearance. In response, Naruto fashioned a big blue fireball in his hand and yelled, Kitsune by Foxfire. He hurled it towards Yukon, who leapt to the bench to avoid it and allowed it to strike the back door, which was scorching because of the fireball's demonic intensity. Damn it! Naruto swore and hurled himself at Yukon. Yukon attempted to kick Naruto's head from his elevated position on the bench, but Naruto eventually used a kick of his own to forcefully sweep Yukon's legs out from under him, sending Yukon crashing onto the bench with his body. As a result of missing his blow to Yukon's head and leaving a large fist impression on the bench, Naruto was kicked in the head. Regaining his balance, Yukon punched Naruto hard in the stomach before snatching his head and slamming it into a nearby metal pole. When Naruto began to see stars, he became so confused that Yukon grabbed his head and slammed it against the window, hard enough to break the glass. This man wanted to kill Naruto. He wasn't messing around. When he felt the jagged remnants of the window cutting into his palms, Naruto resisted his attempt to toss him out of the broken window. Now, who gave a damn about that? He was being thrown from a moving subway train by someone. Unfortunately for him, he had to maintain a wide base, or, to put it another way, spread his legs, in order to obtain sufficient leverage to accomplish that. Naruto fired a shot between Yukon's legs and struck hard, forcing the demon-looking boy to back off and hand over his family's jewels, which Naruto might have broken with his shoe's heel. With his hands down, Yukon was caught in the face by a powerful front kick that Naruto delivered as he ran forward. Using his advantage, Naruto leapt to his feet and swung his body around a pole, giving Yukon a vicious kick to the side of his head that sent him flying. As Naruto staggered back, Yukon launched a kick that essentially turned into a trip, taking him off guard and causing him to stumble, fall forward, and land on the bench. Yukon took hold of Naruto's back and began repeatedly slamming his front face against the metal seat. Naruto could feel the blood streaming down his face from his broken skull, so he let his body go limp in order to fall to the side and halt the attack. Yukon released his hold on his head, allowing it to violently bounce off the ground in a spiteful manner before he started stomping Naruto's body with the heel of his boot. After counting 3 shots and gritting his teeth, Naruto felt an adrenaline rush and got to his feet. Even though he disliked using his claws, he had no choice but to pull them out and give Yukon a savage blow to the throat. Unfortunately, all he received was a brief blow to the face that sliced deep enough to splatter blood onto the seats. Yukon launched a broad blow that Naruto deflected with the outside of an arm, allowing the equally swift Uzumaki to close range and strike him hard in the face with a headbutt. Yukon staggered back, his body hurting from the vicious battle and his clothes stained with Naruto's blood from the previous blow. He was finding it difficult to keep up with Naruto's rapid pace. He had spent so much time with his brother that he was unaccustomed to being outside for extended periods of time and was easily fatigued. For this reason, he attacked Naruto with such force in an attempt to end the fight before he ran out of gas. However, he didn't think Naruto would be able to directly match his power. Actually, Naruto was having a great time. It felt good to have someone else punch him in the face after Jiraiya kicked his ass for a whole week, especially someone who wasn't nearly as strong as Jiraiya. He would have thought twice about fighting Jiraiya after just one well-placed blow, but not this guy. There was no thought of going to his ascended form, not even in Yukon's charged-up form that would have killed him before he'd awakened his demonic blood, as that would be overkill. Naruto was winning the battle of attrition because the other guy was panting profusely and breathing heavily, while all he had to show was a few minor glass scratches and a real cut at his hairline, which he didn't even consider to be battle damage because it was from scar tissue that had already healed. This was Naruto's kind of fight. He had no trouble bleeding at all, and the cut was already healing. Yukon suddenly lunged towards Naruto while holding a kunai knife that materialized in a puff of smoke. After dodging, Naruto formed a cage bunshin and attempted to grab Yukon from behind, but the twin turned and slashed it, dispelling the attack. That was just a way for Naruto to distract Yukon so he could reclaim his own knife from under his pant leg. With a curse, Yukon turned to face Naruto, who was now standing and brandishing a big Bowie knife. That thing had a guard near the handle, allowing Naruto to be a little careless with his defense, in addition to having an absurdly long reach on his kunai for something still classified as a knife. Based on the look in Naruto's eye, he was also fairly certain he knew how to use it. Given how exhausted he already was, Yukon winced at the thought of a knife fight before grinning. He hurled his kunai squarely at Naruto, who ducked just in time to avoid it. He was unable to safely block it at that close range due to the possibility of ricochet. When Naruto saw nothing, he fell onto the bench and held his knife out defensively, ready for Yukon to follow up. The voice of Yukon asked, "What are you looking for?" next to Naruto's ear. "What the fuck?" Naruto exclaimed as he jolted in his seat and turned to face the side where Yukon's head rested on his shoulder. Yukon chuckled. "It's over, trash. Kisei Kikai no Jutsu Parasite Demon Demolition Jutsu. Lets me rest in your body and merge our chakra networks so that I can use my own to corrode your body down to a cellular level. And yes, just so you know, it will hurt." He started laughing. Before something dawned on Naruto, he thought to himself, "Fuck." Then, with a sly smile, he started to channel his own chakra throughout his body. And as he had predicted, it also passed through Yukon, having some extremely intriguing consequences. What is this? How did you turn it on me?" Yukon spat out blood. "No matter how potent your chakra is for that jutsu to work on normal people, I'm not human, at least not fully anyway, and my chakra is way stronger than yours by nature. You've got the chakra of a demon running through your body, dumbass. And yes, it's supposed to hurt." Naruto sarcastically smiled through his bloody crimson mask. He explained that this was due to his turnabout with Yukon as well as his increased desire for bloodlust. With a swift movement, Yukon left Naruto's body behind and appeared in the seat across from him, breathing heavily and continuously coughing up blood. His hideous shape dwindled into the odd symbols, and those vanished just as fast. Furious that his Kekkei Genkei had been outmatched, Yukon hurled himself viciously at Naruto. Leaning back on the bench, Naruto pulled his legs back and his feet to prevent Yukon from getting close to him. Then, with all of his might, he kicked Yukon away and sent the boy flying out of the window that he had smashed with his head. After hurling Yukon out of the window, Naruto just sat there and gazed at it. They were no longer underground in a tunnel. They had changed to tracks across a bridge, which was about 150 feet above the ground. He was dead for sure, and the chakra poisoning would have taken care of him even if he had been made of cast iron and had somehow survived the fall. Naruto sighed as he reclined in his seat, worn out from using demonic power. He hardly saw Sasuke come in through the open window, looking very beaten up, but he was unable to comment further. "You do this?" Sasuke asked, referring to the dents and smashes in the car's metal as well as the broken window. He scowled, looked over at Naruto's bloody face, and noticed a noticeable lack of Yukon in the vehicle. Naruto said simply, "What about yours?" After Saken had punched him, Sasuke massaged his stomach and said, "I don't think anyone should go into that car ever again." Naruto gave him a strange look and asked him to explain, adding, "He resisted arrest." "Oh." Naruto responded with comprehension. "He was killed by Sasuke. Why didn't he say that right away? Trying to trick him, fucking Teme. He was trying to look smart after his head had just bounced off more metal than a pinball table's bumpers." Foolish, Naruto desired to take a snooze. With a broken window as his view, Sasuke said, "You threw your guy out of the window." Lazily speaking, Naruto chimed in, "To be fair, he was going to die even if I didn't throw him out the window." Slumping back in his seat, Sasuke grabbed a handful of hair in rage and said, "What other trainee has to deal with this for their first actual case?" Ignoring him in the process. "And I barbecued a lead on Orochimaru to save the entire train." Both boys sighed and said, "I detest public transit." Naruto continued, "And we still have to complete my mission. XXX also, Saken and Yukon are dead. Sasuke Uchiha and the puny blonde with him were able to kill them both." A deep voice said in a large voice. A woman's voice followed, "Good fucking riddance. Those two cocksuckers were such a pain in the ass and total wastes of space. Why did Orochimaru-sama even bother sending those two at him anyway? They weren't as strong as they fucking thought they were. You shouldn't curse Tayuya, and Saken was the strongest one out of all of us. If he couldn't beat the Uchiha, then we need to rethink things," the loud voice said once more. "Shut the fuck up, Jirobo." Tayuya grumbled, "I know that already. We'll come up with something, it can't be that hard. The Uchiha barely beat him. Saken just got stupid and got himself fucked up in the end. He couldn't match his power." A different voice began to giggle. "That Uchiha kid must have a higher difficulty than we thought, and that strange blonde kid that was with him has got to be up there too. I like it. It sounds like a challenge to me. Tayuya murmured, "You know what? I don't care, Kitamaru. I just don't fucking care, alright. Tell the boss what happened to Sakin and Yukon, and make sure he knows that we're still dragging the Uchiha back to Orochimaru-sama. The last thing we want is for him to have to come out to this shithole." The others were trembling. "He'll probably kill all of us once the job is done just for taking so long." Resort at Tasuki no Kuni Beach. In her family's hotel room, Kyubi was lying on one of the two beds, repeatedly hitting her head on the mattress. When her mother Setsuna came in to see how her daughter was doing, she saw this and asked, "Is there any reason that you're slowly concussing yourself with your bed?" After letting her face fall to the bed, Kyubi pointed to the TV she had been watching. "It's not even noon yet. What kind of report do they need to be showing?" Setsuna asked, sitting on the bed, as she watched a news report. Kyubi responded with a muffled groan. "The unidentified assailants were defeated and neutralized by my younger brother Sasuke and another mystery citizen who decided to assist him," Itachi said in an interview on TV, his usual monotone tone. He refuses to be seen for a statement, but he would like to be identified as Sai Hungwell Hamburger. The second body should be intact somewhere along the. With her face still buried in the bed, Kyubi uttered, "Damn it, Naru-kun." He sat up and moved towards her nightstand. "I'm calling him." She felt her mother was staring at her and decided to explain, "That's him. No one else would use a name that's stupid for anything." She raised her head to give her mother a displeased look. "He and Sasuke got into a fight on the subway and killed two guys that tried to hold people hostage. Or so the news said." With a smile, Setsuna said to Kyubi, "Oh, go ahead, dear. Feel free." "You're not leaving the room, are you?" Kyubi asked her mother after finding Naruto's name in her contact list. Setsuna exclaimed, "Of course not," with joy. Kyubi called Naruto and said, sarcastically, "Wonderful. XXX Naruto and Sasuke in Konohagakure no Sato." As he and Sasuke emerged from the subway station's public restroom, Naruto smiled and said, "You see, I told you carrying a change of clothes and medical stuff was a good idea. Now I don't have to walk around bloody all day long and you don't look like you rolled around in an ashtray." He had a butterfly bandage on his head. "It would have been nice to have that option before the interview," sneered Sasuke, casting a critical glance at Naruto. "Why was it that I had to be on TV and you were able to duck it? And what's with that stupid alias you gave to Itachi? I have enough enemies right now. I don't need more attention, deputy. Hence the alias, but I ducked it because while you were giving your fangirls something to tape on VHS for the Sasuke Uchiha compilation section of the video yearbook, I was giving Itachi my account of what happened and told him what was going on. Even the Orochimaru stuff. That he said he didn't know," Naruto said as the two left the building, his goggles covering his face to block out the sun's glare. He felt Sasuke's Sharingan-enhanced glare on him. Was I not supposed to tell him? Damn it. Months of work keeping Itachi and Dad out of it and now it's all blown to shit. "Thanks a lot, Naruto," Sasuke said, palming his face as he stopped glaring. Itachi's impassive eyes were rather intimidating without the Sharingan. That would be overkill in this case. "Don't blame Naruto-kun, little brother," the two boys said, recoiling in fear at the sight of Itachi sneaking up on them. He was simply doing what he was supposed to do. Now what is this about you withholding information on a cold case? That was rather foolish of you. Naruto put his phone to his ear and walked away from the two brothers before they could respond. "Yes, Q-chan. No, I didn't start that. Yes, I'm alright. Hey, yeah, we kicked their asses. I threw his ass out of a window. From a moving train. That's a new one. Hi, Setsuna Kachin," he said. Under his older brother's steely gaze, Sasuke said, "I know. I wanted to handle most of this on my own. I was going to tell you guys once I found enough to get a possible location on Orochimaru, I swear." "I understand. Still, it was not a very intelligent thing to do, Sasuke-kun. From what Naruto-kun said, he sent his underlings after you," Itachi said, poking Sasuke in the forehead. Sasuke replied, "I didn't think he actually knew of me. I guess I was wrong. But the thing is, the guys we fought had some kind of powers. Some kind of markings spread over their bodies and made them way faster and stronger. Naruto said he fought a guy using that before, but he didn't know anything about it at the time." "I see," Itachi responded. "Well, do you remember those young assassins that came after you and Naruto-kun?" Sasuke replied. Well, we've learned that they had a connection to Orochimaru. If you had told me this sooner, I would have given you that information. Sasuke's expression changed dramatically. It doesn't matter though. They were all just pawns. They had no information of use to us at all. So do you need me to come back to the station? Sasuke asked, giving himself a shoulder rub. Itachi nodded. That won't be necessary. You can continue to follow Naruto-kun for the day, but you and I will be talking about this when you get home. Mother and father as well, understood? He replied. Not wishing to irritate Itachi any more than he already was, Sasuke nodded stupidly and said, "Got it, Itachi." Before going to where the police had set up shop for the situation, Itachi said, "Run along then, Sasuke-kun." Run along then, Sasuke-kun. Sasuke mocked behind his brother's back until Itachi turned abruptly with his Sharingan active, causing Sasuke to quickly turn and walk away on his own. Sasuke gave Itachi a deadpan look as he walked away. "Dobi, you done?" he asked Naruto, who was still talking on the phone. "Yeah, I know you wish I was there, Q-chan." Naruto grinned, holding up a finger to signal him to wait a moment. "Yeah, I'd find us a secret beach spot so we could do, you know what, your dad can't kill me. Why is that funny?" When Sasuke could take no more, he grabbed the phone from Naruto and said, "He'll call you back later, Kyuubi." He heard her laugh, "Okay," and hung up before giving the phone back to Naruto. "Okay. My contact for the mission should be around here somewhere, so let's start looking." The scroll said whoever it is would find us once we got out here, Naruto said as he pocketed his phone and surveyed the area. "What the fuck?" Sasuke exhaled painfully as he doubled over after receiving a light backhand in the testicles. "All of this commotion isn't going to help this person find us. Dobi, do something mercenary to get their attention," he said, covering his eyes against the sun. "There. Was that mercenary enough for you?" smiled Naruto. Sasuke responded by striking him again, doing the same to him. "You teme," he muttered. "Dobi. Teme." A man with spiky black hair and a beard asked them both, his expression bewildered. "You two all right?" Wearing black slacks and a button-up shirt, he stared at them both and said, "I thought the old man only hired one mercenary though. I'm going to assume you two are who I'm supposed to be looking for." Naruto regained his composure and continued to, "Well, I'm the mercenary. Naruto Uzumaki at your service. You lucked out, with me sometimes you'll get this guy tagging along. More bang for your buck. I'm the best money can buy, and Broody here is my emo manservant, Sasuke Uchiha." In response, Sasuke yelled, "Fuck you, Naruto. Oi, remember your place, motherfucker." Naruto replied, "I'm Morris Day and you're Jerome, bitch, don't you forget that." With a fierce expression, Sasuke said, "I really want to set you on fire right now." "All right, you two are with me. My name is Asuma Sarutobi, and I'm your contact Uzumaki," the man said, dripping with perspiration. "Understood. So who am I protecting you from?" Naruto nodded. With a smile on his face, Asuma said, "Me? Why would I need anyone to protect me? I could probably kick your asses right here and now." This made Naruto and Sasuke start to laugh. No offense. Sasuke was held back by Naruto. "Don't try it. Most of the people that flat out say they can kick my ass and are older than me usually can kick my ass. So if you don't need protection, then who the hell are we here to protect? Your contract is for a period of 24 hours, as you already know. You are to protect a boy named Konohamaru Sarutobi, my nephew, while I and my father, Hiruzen Sarutobi, are in a meeting." Asuma gestured for them to follow him, and they did. Naruto reached for his ear. "A kid? I'm good with kids. Okay, no problem. Who would be after the little guy? You guys have enemies." They both stopped walking, and Asuma blew out smoke. "Yeah, I guess when you make it to the position of Hokage in this town, there are a few people that want to take a shot at you and the people you love." "What? You both didn't know I was the Hokage's kid?" he asked, noticing their reaction. "Duh, Sarutobi. Of course they're related. But why does he need Naruto? Wouldn't he have his own bodyguards?" Sasuke thought to himself, wanting to slap himself. "Yes, for him," Asuma remarked as they drew up to a 4-door sedan that he opened. "But even with us, he likes to outsource work to Keishahin. He's always had close ties to it. I was even in it for a while before I retired and became a bodyguard for him." Naruto grabbed him, preventing Sasuke from asking him if he was sincere about being a former mercenary. Speaking in place of Sasuke, he glanced at Naruto for confirmation and said, "I don't remember you, but you probably were there before I started hanging around." When Asuma stopped to look at Naruto, he was making his way to the driver's side. "Oh yeah, you were Kei Shaheen's cute little mascot that showed up a few years after I left. How's Kakashi, by the way? Rin keeping him in line? How about Obito?" Asuma asked. "I was not the mascot, I was just a kid that liked hanging out there," Naruto said as he unzipped the passenger seat and climbed in. "Kakashi Ni is fine. Yes, Rin Nichan kicks his ass regularly, but so does Obito Ni's and mine." Asuma laughed heartily and said, "I thought so. Yep, good times. So what, are you trying to sway another Uchiha towards joining up?" Sasuke snorted back a laugh as he settled into the back seat. Asuma started the car, scowling, and said, "I don't do this for the money or the kicks. The Dobi needs help and I decided to help him. Don't look any further into it than that." Sasuke peered out the window. "Speaking of you helping me, those two damned wind jutsu that I swiped from you, I can't use them. One of them cuts my hand all to hell when I try it, and the other because I don't even know how to use my element. Any tips, Teme?" Naruto leaned back in his seat as Asuma pulled out of the parking lot and lowered all of the windows in the car. "Wrong element for me. I'm fire and lightning," shrugged Sasuke. "You bastard, I can't use one and you have two," Naruto exclaimed, looking at him incredulously. Asuma asked, "You use wind as your element? While operating the vehicle?" "No kidding. I have wind as my element too. I'd like to think I'm the premier wind user in Konoha. You'd have to go to Sanagakure to find anyone else that's any good at that kind of elemental manipulation." When he turned to face Naruto, he received the look, "What's eating you, kid?" Looking up at Asuma, Naruto tried to milk the last of his childhood cuteness, hoping that at his age he hadn't lost it. But since women were the only ones he could convince with that face these days, and not even them very often, the fact that Asuma was a guy probably wasn't helping matters at all. "Would you help me with my element?" Naruto asked Asuma. Asuma resumed his gaze on the road. "Kid, I'm busy. I'm keeping watch over the most important man in the entire city if not the country, and am attempting to get some on a regular basis from one of my partners who is so hot it should be illegal for her to work with me. I don't have the schedule to train you." With a sigh, Naruto sank back into his chair. "So I'm screwed again. Well, I'm on vacation so maybe I can go to Suna. Tamari totally owes me a favor and she knows it. I can get some help from her if I can leave the country anytime soon. If Ero Sennin would let up on his kicking of my ass and let me go," he said, desperately wanting to kick the dashboard because it wasn't his car. Asuma looked at Sasuke. "It's not like Naruto wants you to train him or something. Handling the elemental training is pretty much something you do on your own. Just tell him how he's supposed to handle it. Right now for my lightning I'm supposed to be able to create a lasting charge in something metal. Tell him his way to start training his." "Fine." Dissatisfied Asuma replied, "Get a leaf. When you can split it in half with your chakra you go to the next level." Asking Asuma, "What's the next level?" was Naruto. "Why don't you split the leaf first and then ask?" Asuma asked, but she didn't answer him straight. "What if I can't find you again to find out what it is?" blinked Naruto. "Oh, that would be a shame, wouldn't it? That would be your problem, kid. I'm not your guardian or your babysitter. You'll have to find someone to help like I did. Our type of chakra element is rare," Asuma said with a laugh as he tapped his ashes out of the open window. Naruto's fingers drummed testily on the armrest. "I already found somebody," he exclaimed. "He's just a lazy smoking ass clown that won't help me out. You wouldn't give a crippled crab a crutch, would you?" Naruto asked. Asuma and Sasuke exclaimed, "What?" in response to Naruto's peculiar figure of speech. After dismissing it with a, "Whatever, kid, all I know is you better be ready for this job. I don't like hiring kids." The older man took another drag from his cigarette. His expression was deadpan. "Well, I'm sure if you were willing to shell out more than 100,000 ryo for someone above my average pay grade you wouldn't be dealing with these kids. Hell, all I'm getting paid for this is 5,000 ryo, and the Tami's getting half of it. You're paying next to nothing for the two of us and you're bitching about it." He glanced in the back seat at Sasuke through the side view mirror. "This below my average pay grade. I worked my way up from the bottom. I'm supposed to run 30,000 on average, even for babysitting crap like this. Why is Ero Sennin making me work for peanuts here? You could ask him. Or try to beat it out of him later, shrugged Sasuke, smirking as he noticed Naruto glare at him in the side view mirror. His gaze widened. Yeah, well, Itachi, and your dad, and Makoto Ka are going to take turns beating the shit out of you when you get home later for keeping the Orochimaru stuff away from them. You do know that Makoto Ka can whip your ass just as bad as the other two, right? She was the one that kicked the shit out Obito Ni when he was a kid. Sasuke sighed. Oh, you didn't know that? Well, you have something to ask her about when her heel is pressing your face into the dirt of your backyard later. Car parked parallel on the side of the road, Asuma rolling his eyes. If you two are done with your little penis swinging contest, maybe you could focus on the job at hand. Namely, how you're going to protect my nephew. Alright. Let's go meet your responsibility for the duration of your contract, Asuma said, opening the door and getting out of the vehicle. They had been taken to a park in the middle of the city, where it appeared that the child they were supposed to protect was. Sasuke, Naruto, and the others followed him outside to the playground, where they saw a woman with striking red eyes and black hair, which briefly led Sasuke to believe she was a Uchiha. She wore a dark blue skirt and black heels, along with a white button-up blouse that was left open enough to reveal cleavage, which Sasuke quickly nudged Naruto in the side to divert his attention from. She looked at them appraising ly as soon as she saw Asuma leading the two of them to her. Asuma walked over and said, "Hey Kurenai. These are our would-be soldiers of fortune, if you will." With a toothy grin, Naruto stepped forward and said, "Nice to meet you, Miss Kurenai. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. The other guy is Sasuke Uchiha." Kurenai did not move to shake Naruto's hand, but instead raised an eyebrow. Naruto's face faltered on the ground as she turned to face Asuma, saying, "They're kids." Pulling out another cigarette, Asuma shrugged and said, "That doesn't mean anything. Kids these days can fight. That's the point, isn't it? The new generation is always supposed to surpass the one before it, or so they say." Sasuke Uchiha. "You were on the news just an hour ago. What are you doing here?" Kurenai asked, nodding as she turned to face Sasuke. Sasuke spoke to the woman quickly, telling her that they could have simply ended Naruto's contract and sent him and her home if they didn't like the person they ended up with for the mission. Naruto didn't really need the money, and if they were going to be jerks the whole time, there was no need for him to try to be nice. "I was on the news, now I'm not. Any more questions?" he could have said. Kurenai narrowed her gaze on him. "I don't see why Hokage-sama couldn't just take Konohamaru with him this time like he usually does. There's no need to hire these kids. It was a waste of money." Rubbing the back of his head, Asuma said, "You remember what Konohamaru did the last time Dad took him with him because he was bored. Waste of cash? Don't break the contract, Naruto. You already failed one mission, don't fail another." Naruto thought sarcastically, "Well then you can just pay me and I can leave. If you don't want me here that's fine, but I'm not wasting my entire day getting out here just to be told by the ones that hired me that they don't want me. Aren't you mercenaries supposed to be loyal to the highest bidder or something? Or does the contract with your signature mean nothing in your PMC?" Kurenai asked, her gaze shifting to Naruto, who scowled at the back and forth. His scowl intensified as he raised his arm. "Yes, I said I would take whatever mission I'm ordered to take when I joined Keishahin, but there's not a whole lot I can do when my employers don't even want me here. If you think I'm not needed then tell me I can go. I'm still getting paid, but if you want us to stay then let me work. I don't even know why Sasuke is dealing with your crap, he doesn't have to be here for this, I do." Once again, Sasuke locked eyes with Kurenai and felt her chakra enter his system, Genjutsu. "I'm not leaving Dobi," he said. "This is your call. If you want to walk away, I'm with you. If these guys will stop sniping at you with their remarks and attitudes and actually let you work, I'm with you as well. Or if she tries to get me to cow to her Genjutsu again, I think I'll still be with you. You'll just have to punch me in the face," Sasuke said, turning on his Sharingan as he defeated the rather flimsy move. To Kurenai, Naruto grinned and cracked his knuckles. "I could get into that. Hey arbitrarily angry lady, put Deputy under a stronger Genjutsu so I can hit him and feel good about myself. Okay. Let's end the little game of dueling egos. Kid, I'm not terminating your contract. I can't do that anyway, only the old man himself can." I was doing this when I was your age, so it would be hypocritical to say you can't. Besides, it is just watching a kid. Asuma sighed and decided to intervene before any bloodshed could occur. Well, I assume that the kid I'm supposed to be keeping an eye on is the one that's running up the spiral slide and jumping off of it once he gets to the top, am I right? Naruto asked, earning a nod and a sweat drop from Asuma and Kurenai. He then turned his head towards the playground and looked at Asuma idly. Asuma spoke to Naruto and Sasuke and motioned to Kurenai, who got up from the bench and approached him. I still don't like it, but orders are orders. We still have to get to his office anyway to meet with the others before his meeting, so we're taking our leave, Asuma said. Naruto turned to face them and said, that's okay. We're all set here anyway. If you need to reach one of us for anything, my contact information is. Sasuke quickly took Kurenai's spot on the bench. As Kurenai started to make his way back to the car, Asuma remarked, we already have it, kid. If you let Konohamaru get hurt you. I know. Naruto grumbled, some kind of horrific bodily harm will befall me and my career will be over. Or were you going to blatantly threaten me in some other way? Naruto inquired. I know what the score is here. With a nod, Asuma left Naruto and Sasuke alone and trailed Kurenai back to the car. With a laptop slung out of his backpack, Sasuke asked, so what are you going to do now? With a shrug, Naruto said, I'm going to introduce myself to the kid. I can't protect him without him even knowing my name, can I? Sasuke let out an incomprehensible sound and Naruto approached Konohamaru, a brown-haired child wearing a yellow t-shirt and gray shorts. He was being watched by other children and appeared to be practicing taijutsu katas. Naruto clumsily remarked, this kid is going to hurt himself before I even start. Konohamaru paused and peered down to see a blonde man with spiky blonde hair, an orange vest closed, orange pants, and goggles around his head. Who are you? Konohamaru asked. Well, I'm the guy that's going to be hanging out with you today, Naruto Uzumaki. Your grandfather sent me to make sure nothing happened to you for the day, Naruto said with a smile and a thumbs up to himself. Konohamaru paused to look down from his perch before continuing, all right, he said hesitantly. Where did Uncle Asuma and Kurenai go? Naruto pointed to the bench where Sasuke was sitting and said, if you need anything, you can come get me or that guy sitting there and we'll help you out. Naruto gave a thumbs up and then walked back to Sasuke and sat down where a leaf was shoved in his face. So I guess we'll just wait here for your mother or until someone gets us. Start training Dobi. Sasuke responded, I tried to use Google to find out how to train your chakra, but there isn't anything on here about it. I guess chakra use is still spread by word of mouth instead of over the internet. Makes sense though, if every Yahoo knew how to use it like us, that would make our jobs that much harder. After stealing the leaf from his friend, Naruto focused his chakra on it and said, how'd I cut it? Man, that Asuma guy was a dick. He could have at least told me how to do this. And that Kurenai lady was a bitch. Didn't you say something about some girl in Suna having wind-based chakra too? Sasuke asked, turning from his laptop. Naruto nodded. You keep the phone number of everyone you've ever met. Why not just call her and ask her? Sasuke asked. Son of a bitch, Naruto said as he gave up on the leaf. Taking out his phone, he rapidly located Temari's number in his contact list. I'm so stupid. XXX in other places. K's no Kuni. Okay, sis, said Kankuro. This is the plan. I sneak in with Karasu disguised as the first crony that we can snatch up. We move around until I can find the boss. Then I fucking stab him, and then after that we all get paid. You guys are out here in case this goes south and I need you to break me out. Temari and Kankuro were well hidden in an alley outside of a warehouse. A body fell from the building's roof, interrupting Temari as she nodded. Got it, so now we just wait for. Okay, you've got your crony, she said, as Kankuro kicked him over and permanently imprinted his features before making a few hand seals and transforming his puppet into that person with a bundle containing him on its back. The siblings both looked down, indifferent to the clearly dead body. Just as Temari's phone rang, Karasu, acting in place of Kankuro, flipped her off and entered through the front door. Naruto? Why is he calling? She asked, leaning against the building. Hello? Temari? Hey, you specialize in wind attacks, don't you? Yes. She asked inquisitively. What makes you want to know? Because I just found my element around a week ago, and it's wind. Listen, how'd I use it? I'm supposed to be doing some weird crap like splitting a leaf with my chakra and I don't know how. When Tamari heard Naruto growl at her over the line, she stopped laughing and snorted with amusement, saying, "A leaf? I had to learn by splitting a rock, you pansy. Okay, how'd I put this? Think of your chakra as two different sides, then try to make the two sides as thin and as sharp as you can and grind them together as if you were trying to cut something. I think I've got it. Okay, thanks Tamari. You guys should come up to Konoha sometime and hang out. No hotel needed, I'm going to be moving soon enough and I'll have room for guests." "That sounds like a good vacation actually. We can talk about it later, I'm busy right now," Tamari said with a smile before closing her eyes. "I am too. Alright Tamari, I'll talk to you later." Someone said, "Did you hear that? I think it came from back here, from the alley's mouth." "Shit." Tamari replied, "Alright bye Naruto. I need to get myself out of some trouble really quick. Show him some skin bab." "Oh hello," Tamari said sweetly. "Did you just come from inside of here? Could I trouble you to stay inside while I wait for a ride? I'd be very grateful to you handsome." She purred to him as she closed her phone with a tick mark on her head. "Idiot," she mumbled, taking off her fan and hiding it before putting on a seductive look. With a lustful smirk on his face, the man she had spoken to stepped forward and said, "Well come on then cutie. I'm sure I can keep you entertained until your ride comes along." "Hey, what the?" As he was lifted off the ground and covered in sand. "Do you want me to kill this man, sister?" Gaara asked Tamari as she materialized in a sandstorm in front of her. "Okay, it's a start," Tamari said as she got her fan back. "Let's go wait for Konkuro to finish her screw up and we can get you something to eat." After giving it some thought, Tamari said, "No Gaara. We're supposed to be weaning you off of killing people for no good reason. Just knock him out if you would." Tamari started to sweat when Gaara used his sand to repeatedly slam the man into the ground and drop him in a nearby dumpster. "That would be nice, sister." Gaara nodded. In his typical monotone, he asked, "Who were you talking to?" Which made her smile. Tamari, with her fan strapped to her back, sighed and scowled. "Oh, that was Naruto." Observing Gaara's eye twitch slightly, she scowled. "Are you still scared of him? Naruto isn't going to hurt you again after he already beat you Gaara. He's actually really nice." Choosing to playfully mock him, she said, "We might even be going to see him really soon." Laughing, Tamari said, "Gaara come back, I'm just messing with you silly." XXX in partnership with Naruto. With his eyes fixed on a leaf in his hand, Sasuke observed Naruto get up and asked, "Why aren't you using your clones? You say they learn what you learn, so if one of them gets it you can just dispel it and figure it out from that one." As Konohamaru and two other children approached him, Naruto, who was still intently focused on honing his chakra, said, "Because we're in public stupid. I can't just make a shit ton of clones holding enough leaves to fill a tree and just leave it at that. I'm supposed to be keeping a low profile outside of battle or private areas. Until this mission is done I'm stuck with strictly myself." One was a small child whose orange hair was pulled back into enormous pigtails. Judging from the way she appeared, she was always flushed. The second child asked, "What's going on Konohamaru? And who are these kids?" He had brown hair, was sleepy looking, and appeared to be dripping snot from his nose. "These guys are Moegi and Udon. What are you doing though? You've been staring at that leaf for a while," Konohamaru said, glancing up at Naruto. Naruto grinned as he turned to face the children after taking a closer look at the leaf in his hand. "Oh, well, I'm trying to train my wind chakra manipulation. I have to cut a leaf with my chakra." As he said, "See, he is a mercenary, just like I told you he was. Just like how Grandpa and Uncle Asuma used to be. Does that mean you can do cool stuff like fly?" Sasuke was still working on his laptop when Naruto snorted, "I wish I could fly. But I can do some cool stuff like make copies of myself, make fire in my hands, and cut stuff up with a special kind of chakra." Sasuke could also shoot fireballs at people in addition to doing a lot of other things. Wow. Sasuke Uchiha. I've heard of him, he's supposed to be a genius police officer. He's a hero, he just saved a train full of people, Udon exclaimed as he turned to face Sasuke. Although he had enough attention on him and it was too funny to try to avoid, Naruto wanted to claim that he was there too, but he kept his name and face off the news for a reason. Konohamaru continued to concentrate on him, That's so cool. Can you teach me how to fight? He inquired. Grandpa only showed me a little bit, like how to defend myself. He says I'm too young to know anything else, but that's not fair, I'm 10. As a 10-year-old who was always getting into fights, Naruto needed to know what he was doing or he would have eaten a lot more gravel and pavement than he already had. However, Konohamaru didn't have that problem, saying, well, he might be right. Besides, there's nothing I can teach you anyway. Because everything he knew was either intended to kill people, be taught to abnormal people, or not be taught at all, saying, I'm not the kind of guy that's meant to train anyone. Moegi attempted to console Konohamaru, who pouted at being turned down. But Udon had gone over to bother Sasuke, who was staring at his laptop, and all he was getting back was a grunt or a single-word answer. What are you doing here? A small, black-haired blur that grabbed Naruto's waist and nearly tackled him to the ground screamed, Naruto Onichan. Little Tsukime-chan. What are you doing here? Naruto asked, his gaze meeting Hanabi's inquisitive white eyes. With a smile, Hanabi gestured to the park's entrance, where Hinata and Neji were waiting. Hinata smiled and waved as they approached Neji, saying, Hinata Wanisama and Neji Nisan promised to take me to the park today. So why are you here? Neji just gave him a cold stare. Me and Sasuke are watching that kid right now. He's the Hokage's grandson, Naruto said, gesturing to Konohamaru. I have a name. It's Konohamaru. Konohamaru stomped up to Naruto after realizing he had been named the Hokage's grandson. With a confused expression on his face, Naruto said, I know that, but you should introduce your own name to other people, especially when you're standing right there. Don't yell at Naruto Onichan. He could beat you up with his eyes closed and both of his hands tied behind his back, Hanabi said, releasing her embrace for Naruto and placing herself between him and Konohamaru. With clenched fists, Konohamaru glared at Hanabi and said, I could beat you up so it doesn't matter. Boys aren't supposed to try and beat up girls, Hanabi said, sticking her tongue out as she pulled down her eyelid. You couldn't touch me anyway, and Naruto Onichan wouldn't be as nice either. Naruto grabbed Konohamaru's punch and used it to propel himself into the air, asking, What are you doing? Aren't you supposed to be protecting me? Nodded in agreement, yeah, I am. I saw you go through your katas earlier and Hanabi would have put you on your back looking up at the sun before you even knew what hit you. He glanced over to Hanabi. Tsukime-chan, be good. Don't pick fights with people, that's not a very dignified thing to do. With a shy look, Hanabi said, Oni-chan, you aren't a dignified person. She's right, I'm not. But then again, I'm not a noble, both of you are, so both of you behave, Naruto said, grinning, turning to face Konohamaru. After setting Konohamaru down, the two turned their backs on each other and said, Fine. You know the more responsible and grown-up of the two of you would apologize to the other. Hanabi and Konohamaru exchanged a look and blurted, I'm sorry, before giving each other a stern look for stealing the other's thunder. There you go. That was a grown-up thing for both of you to do. Go get to know each other, and if you both don't get along I'll string you both up by your britches in a tree. Now go. Naruto said with a smile as he patted each of them on the head. Konohamaru asked, What's wrong? As Hanabi paled and nodded before grabbing him and sprinting off towards the playground equipment. You just met him today so you don't know. He'd actually do it and I don't want to provoke him. Naruto Onichan is a sociopath sometimes, Hanabi said, turning to face the smiling Naruto. Socio what? Inquired Konohamaru. In a whisper, Hanabi hissed, he's crazy. XXX Sasuke and Hinata were sitting on a bench when Hinata said, So what are you both doing out here? Neither of you seem like the public park kind of people. Naruto returned to them. I'm here to work. Sasuke to me's here because he has next to nothing going on, and I'm the only person outside of his family whose presence he can tolerate. My job is to watch the brat that Hanabi almost got into it with just now. Neji looked at the blonde adolescent. It seems your influence is rubbing off on Hanabi-sama. Thank goodness Hinata-sama is too old for your personality to rub off onto. Maybe I can still properly influence her myself. Nope. Happily, Naruto replied. Tsukime-chan knows I'm cooler than you. And I'm glad I got to her. If she was like you she'd be all stuck up and bitchy. I like her like she is. She's a sweetheart. Naruto said to Hinata, almost as sweet as the princess here, and I've rubbed off on her too, she's too devious for her own good. With a charming smile, Hinata said. I don't know what you're talking about, Naruto-kun. Of course you don't, princess. Sarcastically replied Naruto. Anyway, I'm here with Konohamaru until I get the call to drop him off. I have no idea how long that will take though. Sasuke breathed a sigh of relief and closed. You know, on second thought, coming with you today was a bad idea, Dobi. I've had people try to kill me, got Itachi pissed off at me, and now I'm babysitting. When you say protection missions, I should know that you really mean babysitting. She chuckled. You never know, Sasuke-kun. I was kidnapped on Naruto-kun's first escort mission. And from what the news is saying, you've had enough excitement today. With a thoughtful expression on his face, Sasuke rubbed his ribs and remarked, maybe. This is still boring though. Well, Hanabi-chan never really gets a chance to spend any time with others her age aside from other kids from our clan. And that's not really the same, Hinata said, glancing over at the playground where Hanabi was beginning to get along with the others. I really fail to see how that is a bad thing, Hinata-sama. Neji said dismissively, especially when the alternative thus far has been Uzumaki. You might as well be trying to make Hanabi-sama find a role model in a prison inmate. Hinata looked at Neji and said, Neji-Nisan. Do not assume a superior attitude against someone like Naruto-kun. He's a wonderful person, and he has a higher sense of morals than many of the other nobles our clan seems to have no problem associating ourselves with. Neji was staring at Sasuke. I'll show you a real prison inmate and you can see for sure whether or not that asinine comment was appropriate. Whenever I see you, all you ever do is run your mouth about Naruto. I'm seriously getting very sick of hearing you yap. With a smile, Naruto said, Ah, deputy. If someone here gets to talk shit about the idiot on a regular basis, it's going to be me. Scoffed Sasuke, getting up from the bench. Maybe you're still just sore about how we knocked you out with one punch and duct taped you to a chair. Naruto face faltered as Sasuke stood up. Believe me, if you two hadn't surprised me with the cowardly attack, you wouldn't have gotten lucky enough to knock me unconscious, Hyuga said, clearly moved by Sasuke's conversational tone with him. With everyone else's tension building, Hinata was becoming uneasy and tried to diffuse it by saying, Please, just calm down. There's no reason for everyone to be so irate. Princess is right. Deputy, calm down, it's not a big deal. Neji, you're being a douche. Tone it down already. Or are you really going to fight in front of the kids? Naruto said, standing behind her as she remained seated on the bench. He pointed to the area where Hanabi, Konohamaru, and the other teens were, intently staring at the older teens. If you have a problem with me, we can talk about it, but taking shots at me isn't going to serve anyone any good. Neji gave Naruto a quick glance before giving a firm nod and saying, Okay, but not here. Follow me. Sasuke, can you watch the kids and keep Princess company until we get back? Naruto asked, giving Sasuke a sharp nod. Normally, he would have made some sort of crude joke that would have infuriated someone, but this wasn't the time for it. Naruto then started to follow Neji into the park's forest area. As they left, Hinata asked Sasuke, Do you think they're going to fight? With a worried expression on her face. I couldn't tell you. Sasuke replied with honesty. Neji doesn't seem like he has a hair trigger, but Naruto does. If his tongue is sharper than the Dobi's, then there's a good chance of it. I don't think Naruto's really that willing to get into 2 fights in one day though. Where did Naruto and that other guy go? Hanabi, Konohamaru, and their companions hurried over to Sasuke and Hinata from behind. Naruto Onichan and Neji-Nisan aren't going to fight each other, are they? Hanabi asked, looking at her sister with hope. With a comforting smile on her face, Hinata attempted to console her younger sister, saying, Of course they aren't, Hanabi-chan. Neji-Nisan and Naruto-kun are just going to talk for a moment. It's none of our business, so they went a little ways away to keep anyone else from hearing. Ah, Konohamaru uttered a dejected. It would have been cool to see the mercenary guy fight. I've never seen a real battle before. Then Sasuke's phone rang with a call from an unknown number. Hello? Sasuke shook his head and crossed his arms. Kid, you need to be in an actual fight and then you might change that attitude a bit. But yeah, it would have been cool. Sasuke Uchiha. The person on the other end of the call laughed, and Sasuke answered, drawing everyone's attention to the fact that he was on the phone, obviously. Now what do you want? I don't know you, and I can't understand how you would possibly have this number if you didn't. Hey, don't worry about it. The best players never reveal their strategy while the game is still on. You and your buddy beat Sakan and Yukon, that's impressive. It won't help beat the rest of us, but it's still impressive. Hinata gasped at Sasuke's statement. So what do you want before I hang up? Because you're really bad at this whole leaving deadly threats thing. Sasuke's face was fixed in a serious structure. Deadly threats? Sasuke asked, looking comfortingly at her and half smiling, before the other person on the line asked again. What are you talking about? Are you in trouble, Sasuke-kun? No, we're not here to kill you. We need you alive. Orochimaru-sama can give you much more than you can obtain in your current position. Think about it. Do you really want to waste your time chasing a shadow? You can't catch a shadow, can you? No, you can't, Sasuke replied, agreeing. However, you can extinguish one. The last guy said exactly what you said, and now you're going to try and threaten me or something. But let me tell you something, you can come and try it. Try it, and if I don't kill you, Naruto will, and if Naruto doesn't, Itachi will. I don't want to hear what you have to say. If you're smart, you'll stay away, but if you're feeling masochistic, then bring it on. I'm not hard to find, I swear. He spoke in a bitter tone, his Sharingan unconsciously flaming, frightening all the kids save Hanabi, who knew people in her family to do the same thing when they were obviously upset. You know what, I think I will try that. By the way, my name's Kidomaru. Just so you have a name to place me with when I drag you and drop you at Orochimaru's feet, the voice said, laughing again after a pause. Sasuke's lips quirked into as. I'm looking forward to it. And you can tell Orochimaru that if he really wants me that badly he needs to show up himself, because his cronies just aren't getting the job done. After Kidomaru finished speaking, Sasuke hung up the phone, leaned back in the bench, and said, I'm looking forward to it, Uchiha. It should be a fun little game. I hope you're a high enough level to give me a challenge. Are you alright, Sasuke-kun? That sounded serious, Hinata asked, placing a hand on his shoulder. Yeah, everything's fine. Just a little harassment. It comes with the territory. Nothing to worry about, Sasuke said, turning his Sharingan back on her as he glanced over at her.
I will continue the story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.